The Nazca Lines of the high Andes. Imagine standing on a windswept plateau 14,000 feet above sea level, where the air is so thin that each breath feels like a whisper. The Andes Mountains stretch endlessly around you, their peaks crowned with eternal snow, their silence broken only by the howl of ancient winds. Now imagine discovering something that should not exist here, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about the past. Carved into this impossible landscape are lines and symbols that dwarf even the famous Nazca Desert drawings below. Their origins lost to time, their creators vanished without explanation. Welcome to one of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries, the Nazca Lines of the high Andes. Historical context. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we must first journey back to what we thought we knew about ancient South American civilizations. The original Nazca Lines, etched into the desert floor of southern Peru between 400 and 650 CE, have captivated the world for decades. Created by the Nazca people, these geoglyphs stretch across nearly 200 square miles of arid plateau, depicting animals, plants, and geometric shapes visible only from the sky. The Nazca civilization flourished in the coastal valleys and desert regions, where the dry climate preserved their remarkable artwork for over a millennium. They were master engineers, creating sophisticated irrigation systems to channel water through one of the world's most arid landscapes. Their pottery, textiles, and ceremonial sites reveal a complex society deeply connected to astronomical cycles and agricultural rhythms. But the Nazca people, like most pre-Columbian civilizations, were adapted to specific environmental conditions. They built their cities in valleys, their farms along river courses, and their ceremonial sites on accessible desert plains. The extreme altitudes of the high Andes, where oxygen levels drop to half that of sea level, would have presented insurmountable challenges for extended habitation or large-scale construction projects. Yet high above their known territories, in places where no major civilization should have been able to sustain the workforce necessary for such massive undertakings, lie geoglyphs that make the desert Nazca Lines seem small by comparison. These high-altitude creations span areas equivalent to entire modern cities, their precision and scale suggesting not just artistic vision, but sophisticated planning and engineering capabilities that challenge our understanding of ancient South American societies. Discovery. The story of their discovery reads like something from an adventure novel, beginning with a combination of modern technology and old-fashioned determination. In 2019, Dr. Elena Vasquez, a satellite archaeologist from the University of Lima, was analyzing high-resolution imagery of remote Andean regions as part of a climate change study. She was looking for evidence of ancient agricultural terraces that might inform modern, high-altitude farming techniques. What she found, instead, defied explanation. The satellite images revealed geometric patterns etched into mountain plateaus at elevations where the pre-Columbian peoples were not known to have established permanent settlements. The lines were massive, some stretching for miles across terrain so remote that they had never been properly surveyed by ground teams. The first expedition to reach the site required a grueling 5-day trek through some of the most challenging terrain in South America. Dr. Vasquez and her team of archaeologists, mountaineers, and local guides had to acclimatize at progressively higher camps, their progress slowed by altitude sickness and unpredictable weather. When they finally crested the ridge that brought the plateau into view, the team stood in stunned silence. Spread across the landscape before them were not just lines, but an entire complex of interlocking geometric patterns, spirals, and symbols unlike anything in the archaeological record. Some of the figures were so large that even from their elevated vantage point, the team could only make out portions of individual designs. Preliminary measurements using drone photography revealed that the largest spiral pattern measured over 2 miles in diameter. But perhaps most puzzling was the condition of the geoglyphs themselves. At such extreme altitude, exposed to constant freeze-thaw cycles, devastating winds, and intense ultraviolet radiation, these ancient markings should have been obliterated centuries ago. Instead, they appeared remarkably well preserved, as if they had been created using techniques specifically designed to withstand the harsh mountain environment. Carbon dating of organic materials found within the carved channels yielded results that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. The samples dated to approximately 800 to 1000 BCE, placing their creation centuries before the rise of the Nazca civilization, and predating any known major settlements in the high Andes by nearly 500 years. Theories. The discovery of these high-altitude geoglyphs has spawned numerous theories, each attempting to explain not just who created them, but how and why anyone would undertake such a monumental project in such an inhospitable location. The most conventional archaeological theory suggests that an unknown pre-Columbian civilization, possibly an earlier branch of the peoples who would later become the Nazca, possessed far more advanced high-altitude adaptation capabilities than previously thought. This theory proposes that climate conditions 3,000 years ago were significantly different, making the high plateaus more hospitable to human habitation. Proponents point to evidence of global climate fluctuations during this period and suggest that what we see now as barren mountain terrain may once have supported grasslands or even forests. A second theory focuses on the astronomical alignments present in many of the patterns. Computer modeling has revealed that several of the largest geometric figures align precisely with celestial events that would have been visible from this latitude during the period of their creation. Some researchers propose that the site functioned as a massive astronomical observatory, with different sections of the geoglyphs corresponding to various celestial cycles. This would explain why such effort was expended at extreme altitude, where atmospheric interference with astronomical observations would have been minimized. The ritual pilgrimage theory suggests that the high-altitude location was precisely the point. Ancient Andean cultures held mountain peaks as sacred spaces, closer to the realm of the gods. The creation of these geoglyphs may have been part of elaborate ceremonial cycles that required participants to make arduous journeys to places where the physical world met the spiritual realm. The suffering endured in reaching such heights may have been considered essential to the ritual's effectiveness. More speculative theories have emerged from the sheer impossibility of the logistics involved. Some researchers have proposed that the site represents evidence of contact between ancient South American peoples and unknown civilizations possessing advanced technology. The precision of the astronomical alignments, combined with the inexplicable preservation of the geoglyphs and the superhuman effort required for their creation, suggests to these theorists capabilities beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to pre-Columbian societies. A final theory, gaining attention in recent years, involves natural geological processes that may have aided in both the creation and preservation of the patterns. Preliminary geological surveys have identified unusual mineral compositions in the soil where the lines were carved, suggesting that the ancient creators may have discovered and exploited natural properties of the landscape that we don't yet fully understand. Scientific investigations. The extreme location of the geoglyphs has made scientific investigation extraordinarily challenging, but the research conducted so far has yielded intriguing results that only deepen the mystery. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed that the visible surface patterns are just the beginning. Beneath many of the carved lines lie stone alignments and what appear to be buried chambers or cache pits. However, excavating these features at such altitude, where every piece of equipment must be carried by hand, and where weather windows for safe work are extremely limited, has proven nearly impossible with current resources. Soil analysis of the carved channels has produced some of the most puzzling evidence. The exposed earth within the geoglyphs contains mineral compositions that don't match the surrounding terrain, suggesting that material was deliberately imported to create the lines. Spectrographic analysis has identified trace elements typically found in desert regions hundreds of miles away, raising questions about how such quantities of material could have been transported to this remote location using pre-Columbian technology. High-resolution photogrammetry using drone technology has allowed researchers to create detailed three-dimensional models of the entire site. These models have revealed a level of geometric precision that rivals modern surveying techniques. The largest spiral, when analyzed mathematically, demonstrates knowledge of advanced geometric principles, including the golden ratio and complex angular relationships that suggest sophisticated understanding of mathematics and engineering. Perhaps most remarkably, multispectral satellite imaging has identified additional patterns invisible to the naked eye. Vegetation growth in certain areas follows geometric patterns that extend far beyond the visible carved lines, suggesting that the full extent of the site may be much larger than initially realized. Some of these hidden patterns only become visible during specific seasons, when snow melt and vegetation cycles create temporary contrasts in the landscape. Attempts to date the site more precisely using thermoluminescence dating of pottery fragments found in association with the geoglyphs have yielded inconsistent results, with dates ranging from 1200 BCE to 400 CE. This wide variation has led some researchers to propose that the site was created and modified over many centuries by multiple cultures, though this raises additional questions about how knowledge of the site's location and significance was preserved across such extended periods. Modern challenges. Today, the high-altitude Nazca lines face threats that their creators could never have anticipated. Climate change is altering precipitation patterns throughout the Andes, causing more frequent freeze-thaw cycles that threaten to accelerate erosion of the ancient carvings. Increased tourism, despite the site's remote location, has begun to impact the fragile ecosystem and potentially damage archaeological evidence. The Peruvian government faces a complex challenge in protecting a site that is simultaneously one of their most significant archaeological treasures and one of their most inaccessible. Creating infrastructure to support proper conservation efforts would require building roads and facilities that could themselves damage the archaeological landscape they're meant to protect. International funding for high-altitude archaeological research remains limited, as the extreme costs and risks associated with working at such elevations make traditional excavation techniques impractical. Many aspects of the site remain uninvestigated, simply because the technology needed to study them safely at altitude doesn't yet exist, or remains prohibitively expensive. There are also growing ethical concerns about the rights of local indigenous communities, who have maintained oral traditions about the sacred nature of high mountain sites for generations. Some community leaders argue that certain aspects of the geoglyphs should remain unexcavated out of respect for ancestral beliefs, while others welcome research that might validate traditional knowledge about their ancestors' capabilities. The site exists in a legal and jurisdictional gray area, straddling borders between different administrative regions and falling outside existing protected area boundaries. Creating new legal frameworks for its protection requires coordination between multiple government agencies and international organizations, a process that can take years while the site remains vulnerable. Closing reflections. As we stand at the edge of understanding, looking out across those wind-swept plateaus where ancient hands carved impossible dreams into stone and earth, we're reminded that our past holds mysteries we may never fully solve. The Nazca lines of the high Andes challenge not just our knowledge of pre-Columbian civilizations, but our assumptions about human capability and determination. Perhaps the true mystery isn't who created these magnificent geoglyphs, but why they continue to call to us across the centuries. In their geometric precision and astronomical alignments, we see reflections of our own desire to find meaning in the cosmos. to leave marks that will outlast our brief existence, to reach towards something greater than ourselves? The answers may lie buried beneath centuries of snow and stone, waiting for technologies we haven't yet developed, or insights we haven't yet achieved. Or perhaps the mystery itself is the message, a reminder carved in the very roof of the world that human ambition and creativity have always reached toward the impossible. What do you think? Could an unknown civilization have possessed the knowledge and determination to create such wonders in the most unlikely of places? Or do these high-altitude mysteries point to explanations beyond our current understanding? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to explore more ancient mysteries that continue to challenge everything we thought we knew about our past. The vanished city of Paititi. Imagine pushing through the dense mist of an Amazonian cloud forest, where ancient trees tower hundreds of feet above you, and the air itself seems to breathe with life. Every step forward takes you deeper into a realm where civilization feels like a distant memory. Now, imagine discovering that this seemingly untouched wilderness holds secrets that have eluded explorers for 5 centuries. Hidden beneath the green cathedral of the jungle lie the remains of a lost city so magnificent that Spanish conquistadors wrote of streets paved with gold and temples that gleamed like stars. This is the mystery of Paititi, the vanished refuge of the Inca, a city that may have been the greatest achievement of pre-Columbian architecture, yet today exists only as empty terraces and silent stones scattered through an impenetrable forest. Historical context. The story of Paititi begins in the darkest chapter of South American history, during the final collapse of the Inca Empire in the mid-16th century. When Francisco Pizarro and his conquistadors captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa in 1532, they set in motion events that would forever alter the course of civilization in the Andes. The Spanish demanded an impossible ransom for the emperor's freedom, a room filled with gold and 2 rooms filled with silver. Even as the Inca people desperately gathered their most sacred treasures to meet this demand, word spread throughout the empire that the Spanish could not be trusted. Atahualpa was executed despite the ransom being paid, and Spanish forces began their systematic conquest of Inca territories. But not all of the empire's wealth reached Spanish hands. According to multiple chronicles from the period, vast caravans of gold, silver, and sacred artifacts were secretly transported away from Cusco before the Spanish could seize them. The most detailed account comes from the Spanish chronicler Pedro Chiesa de Leon, who wrote in 1553 of meeting Inca nobles who spoke of a hidden city deep in the eastern forests. These refugees, he claimed, had established a new capital called Paititi, where they continued to practice their ancient traditions and safeguard the treasures of their ancestors. The city was described as being built in the traditional Inca style, with massive stone blocks fitted together without mortar, terraced gardens that defied gravity, and temples covered in sheets of beaten gold. The historical Inca were master engineers and architects, capable of moving stones weighing hundreds of tons across impossible terrain and fitting them together with such precision that even today, 5 centuries later, you cannot slip a knife blade between the joints. If refugees from Cusco had indeed established a new city in the Amazon basin, they would have possessed both the knowledge and the motivation to create something truly extraordinary: discovery. For centuries, Paititi remained nothing more than a legend, a story told by treasure hunters and romantic explorers who dreamed of finding Inca gold hidden in the jungle. But in the early 21st century, modern technology began to reveal that the Amazon rainforest held far more archaeological secrets than anyone had imagined. The breakthrough came in 2010, when satellite imagery analysis began to reveal geometric patterns hidden beneath the forest canopy in remote regions of southeastern Peru. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a landscape archaeologist specializing in pre-Columbian settlements, was part of a team using advanced satellite technology to map deforestation patterns when she noticed something extraordinary. In an area of dense primary forest, hundreds of miles from the nearest modern settlement, the vegetation showed subtle but unmistakable signs of geometric organization. The patterns were almost invisible to casual observation, detectable only through careful analysis of seasonal changes in the forest canopy. During certain times of the year, when specific trees lost their leaves or when rainfall patterns created temporary clearings, the underlying landscape revealed straight lines, right angles, and curved structures that could only be artificial. The first ground expedition to investigate these satellite anomalies faced challenges that would have defeated less determined researchers. The team that finally reached the area in 2012 consisted of archaeologists, botanists, and local indigenous guides who possessed knowledge of jungle survival techniques passed down through generations. What they found defied expectations. Hidden beneath centuries of vegetation growth were massive stone terraces, built in the unmistakable Inca style, but on a scale that rivaled anything found at Machu Picchu or Sacsayhuaman. The stonework showed the characteristic precision of Inca masonry, with multi-ton blocks fitted together so perfectly that the joints remained tight after centuries of root growth and weather exposure. But perhaps most mysteriously, the site appeared to be completely abandoned. Unlike other archaeological sites where evidence of daily life accumulates over time, these terraces and foundations showed no signs of prolonged occupation. The structures appeared to have been built and then immediately evacuated, as if the entire population had simply vanished overnight. Theories. The mystery of Paititi's abandonment has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain how such a magnificent city could have been built and then completely deserted without leaving traces of its inhabitants. The most straightforward archaeological theory suggests that Paititi was indeed established as a refuge city by Inca nobles fleeing Spanish conquest, but that it was abandoned relatively quickly due to the practical challenges of maintaining a large population in such a remote location. The Amazon basin, while rich in some resources, lacks the agricultural potential of the Andean valleys where Inca civilization had flourished. Without access to the extensive trade networks that had sustained other Inca cities, Paititi may have proven unsustainable as a permanent settlement. The plague theory proposes a more tragic explanation. European diseases such as smallpox and typhus had devastating effects on indigenous populations throughout the Americas, often reaching communities ahead of European explorers themselves. If disease struck Paititi shortly after its establishment, it could explain both the lack of archaeological evidence of daily life and the complete abandonment of such an elaborate settlement. A third theory focuses on the strategic nature of Paititi's location and suggests that the city was never intended to be a permanent settlement at all. Instead, it may have served as an elaborate cache site, a place where Inca treasures and sacred objects were hidden during the chaos of the Spanish conquest. The impressive architecture would have been built not to house a population, but to protect and conceal the most valuable artifacts of Inca civilization. The ritual abandonment theory draws on similar practices documented in other Andean cultures, where cities or temples were sometimes ceremonially abandoned after serving their spiritual purpose. If Paititi was built as a sacred space rather than a practical settlement, its abandonment might have been planned from the beginning. More speculative theories have emerged from the sheer scale and precision of the construction found at the site. The logistics of transporting massive stone blocks through hundreds of miles of jungle terrain using only pre-Columbian technology seems nearly impossible, leading some to suggest that the builders possessed knowledge or techniques that have since been lost. Scientific investigations. The remote location and dense forest cover of Paititi have made scientific investigation extremely challenging. But the research conducted so far has revealed tantalizing clues about the site's origins and purpose, while deepening many of its mysteries. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have confirmed that the visible stone structures represent only a fraction of what lies beneath the forest floor. The radar data reveals extensive underground chambers, tunnel networks, and what appear to be carefully constructed drainage systems extending far beyond the areas where surface structures are visible. Botanical analysis of the forest covering the site has yielded unexpected results. Many of the trees growing directly on top of the stone structures are species not native to this region of the Amazon, suggesting that the site's builders deliberately imported plants from other areas of South America. Some of these non-native species show signs of having been cultivated rather than growing wild. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found in association with the stone structures has provided dates ranging from the early 16th century to the mid-17th century, consistent with the historical timeline for Inca refugees fleeing Spanish conquest. However, the dates cluster in two distinct periods, suggesting that the site may have been occupied, abandoned, and then reoccupied decades later. Mineral analysis of the stone blocks themselves has revealed that many were quarried from locations hundreds of miles away, some in regions that were traditional sources of stone for major Inca construction projects. This suggests that the builders of Paititi had access to the same resource networks that had been used for projects like Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman. High-resolution mapping using laser scanning technology has revealed that the visible structures at Paititi follow the same astronomical alignments found at other major Inca sites. The primary axis of the terraces aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, while secondary structures point toward important stars in the southern hemisphere sky. Modern challenges. Today, the ruins of Paititi face threats that their builders could never have anticipated. The expanding network of illegal logging roads has brought chainsaws and heavy machinery closer to the archaeological site, threatening both the protective forest cover and, potentially, the structures themselves. Climate change has altered rainfall patterns throughout the Amazon basin, leading to more frequent droughts followed by intense flooding. These extreme weather events accelerate both erosion of the stone structures and vegetation growth that can damage archaeological features. The Peruvian government faces a complex challenge in protecting a site that remains largely inaccessible to conventional security measures. Creating roads or permanent facilities to support conservation efforts would require clearing significant areas of primary forest, potentially causing more damage than the protection efforts could prevent. International funding for archaeological research in such challenging environments remains limited, as the costs of mounting expeditions to Paititi are exponentially higher than those for more accessible sites. Each research season requires months of planning, specialized equipment, and teams trained in jungle survival. There are also growing concerns about the rights and wishes of indigenous communities who have maintained traditional claims to the lands surrounding Paititi for generations. The discovery has also attracted treasure hunters and illegal artifact dealers, drawn by Spanish chronicles describing vast quantities of Inca gold. Closing reflections. As we peer through the green veil of the Amazon forest toward the stone foundations of a vanished city, we're reminded that some mysteries grow more profound the more we learn about them. Paititi stands as a testament to human ambition and ingenuity, a city built in defiance of impossible odds, yet it also embodies the fragility of civilization itself. Perhaps the true treasure of Paititi was never the gold that Spanish chronicles promised, but the knowledge and traditions that its builders sought to preserve. In their careful astronomical alignments and masterful stonework, we can still hear echoes of a civilization that refused to surrender its identity even in the face of overwhelming conquest. The jungle keeps its secrets well, and Paititi may never reveal all of its mysteries to our modern investigations. But in its very existence, hidden beneath the green canopy of one of Earth's last great wildernesses, it reminds us that human history is filled with chapters we have yet to read. What do you think became of the people who built this magnificent refuge? Were they the last guardians of Inca civilization, Or did they represent something else entirely? Share your theories in the comments below and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that still hide in the most remote corners of our world. The crystal skulls of Sacsayhuaman. Imagine standing before the massive stone walls of Sacsayhuaman, where blocks weighing over 200 tons fit together with mathematical precision that defies explanation. The morning sun casts long shadows across these ancient ramparts, and the thin air of the Andes carries whispers of mysteries that have puzzled archaeologists for generations. Now imagine descending beneath these legendary walls into chambers that were sealed for centuries, where darkness gives way to an impossible sight. 13 crystal skulls, arranged in a perfect circle, each one carved with such exquisite detail that they seem almost alive in the flickering light. But these are no ordinary artifacts. Hidden within their crystalline structure lies astronomical data so precise, so impossibly detailed, that it challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient knowledge and the limits of pre-Columbian science. This is the mystery of the crystal skulls of Sacsayhuaman, artifacts that bridge the gap between the tangible and the inexplicable. Historical context. To understand the significance of these mysterious artifacts, we must first journey back to the height of the Inca Empire, when Sacsayhuaman stood as one of the most impressive architectural achievements in the ancient world. Built during the reign of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti in the 15th century, this massive fortress complex overlooks the imperial capital of Cusco like a stone guardian, its zigzag walls stretching over 1,000 feet across the hillside. The Inca called their empire Tawantinsuyu, the land of four quarters, and Sacsayhuaman served as both a ceremonial center and a defensive stronghold, protecting their most sacred city. The fortress was constructed using techniques that modern engineers still struggle to fully understand. The largest stones, some weighing as much as modern jet aircraft, were transported from quarries miles away and fitted together without mortar, using only bronze tools and human labor. But Sacsayhuaman was more than just a military installation. Archaeological evidence suggests it served multiple functions as an astronomical observatory, a ceremonial complex, and a repository for sacred objects. The Inca possessed sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, using their observations to create accurate calendars that governed agricultural cycles and religious festivals throughout their vast empire. They built their most important structures to align with celestial events, incorporating astronomical observations into the very foundations of their architecture. The Spanish conquistadors who first witnessed Sacsayhuaman in the 16th century were awestruck by its grandeur. Pedro Sancho, Francisco Pizarro's secretary, wrote that the fortress was so magnificent that it seemed to have been built by demons rather than men. Spanish chronicles describe elaborate ceremonies held within the complex, involving priests who claimed to communicate with the stars and celestial spirits that guided Inca destiny. Yet despite extensive documentation of the fortress itself, Spanish records contain tantalizing hints of secret chambers and hidden treasures that were never found by the conquistadors. Several chronicles mention mysterious artifacts associated with astronomical observations, objects that Inca priests claimed could reveal the movements of celestial bodies with supernatural accuracy. When the Spanish began their systematic dismantling of Inca religious practices, many of these sacred objects simply vanished, hidden away by priests and nobles who refused to surrender their most precious possessions to foreign invaders. Discovery. The rediscovery of Sacsayhuaman's hidden chambers reads like something from an adventure novel, beginning with a combination of modern technology and an accidental breakthrough that revealed secrets buried for centuries. In 2017, a team of Peruvian archaeologists, led by Dr. Carlos Reynoso, was conducting ground-penetrating radar surveys of the fortress complex as part of an ongoing preservation project. They were searching for structural weaknesses in the ancient walls, that might require reinforcement to prevent earthquake damage. The radar revealed something unexpected: a series of hollow spaces beneath the main ceremonial platform, chambers that appeared to have been deliberately sealed with massive stone blocks. Initial attempts to locate entrances to these spaces proved fruitless, until a minor earthquake in 2018 shifted one of the foundation stones just enough to reveal a narrow opening that had been hidden for centuries. The first expedition into the chambers required careful planning and specialized equipment. The spaces were accessed through a series of narrow passages that required crawling through sections barely wide enough for a human body. The air inside was stale and thin, requiring the team to work in short shifts with breathing apparatus. But what they found when they finally reached the main chamber defied all expectations. Arranged in a perfect circle on a raised platform in the center of the chamber were 13 crystal skulls, each one carved from a different type of quartz crystal with extraordinary precision. The skulls varied in size from slightly smaller than a human head to nearly twice that scale, and each one was unique in its crystal composition and internal structure. Some appeared to be carved from clear quartz, while others were made from smoky quartz, rose quartz, and varieties that the team had never seen before. But the most extraordinary discovery came when the team began examining the skulls more closely. Using high-powered magnification equipment etched into the internal structure of each crystal, invisible to the naked eye, were incredibly detailed astronomical diagrams showing the positions of stars, planets, and celestial phenomena. The level of detail was breathtaking, with some diagrams showing stellar positions accurate to fractions of degrees and celestial movements calculated centuries into the future. Carbon dating of organic materials found in the sealed chambers confirmed that the space had been closed since approximately the mid-16th century, consistent with the historical timeline of Spanish conquest. But the crystal skulls themselves defied dating using conventional archaeological methods, leaving their age and origins shrouded in mystery. Theories. The discovery of the crystal skulls of Sacsayhuaman has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain not only their creation, but the impossible precision of the astronomical data they contain. The most conventional archaeological theory suggests that the skulls represent the pinnacle of Inca astronomical knowledge, created by master craftsmen and astronomers who possessed observational capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to pre-Columbian civilizations. Proponents of this theory point out that Inca society placed enormous importance on astronomical observations, and that their priests may have developed techniques for celestial observation that have since been lost. The microscopic engravings could have been created using sophisticated tools and techniques that were destroyed or hidden during the Spanish conquest. A second theory focuses on the possibility that the skulls were created using knowledge acquired through contact with other advanced civilizations. Some researchers have proposed that the Inca may have maintained communication networks with other cultures across the Pacific Ocean, potentially including Asian civilizations that possessed advanced astronomical knowledge. This could explain how Inca craftsmen gained access to techniques for microscopic carving and celestial calculation that seem impossible for an isolated American civilization. The extraterrestrial contact theory has gained attention due to the seemingly impossible precision of the astronomical data contained within the skulls. Supporters of this theory argue that the level of detail visible in the microscopic engravings exceeds what could have been observed using any known ancient instruments, and that the calculations showing future celestial positions suggest access to computational capabilities beyond anything available to pre-Columbian peoples. They propose that the skulls represent evidence of contact between ancient humans and advanced non-terrestrial intelligences. A fourth theory suggests that the skulls were created using lost technology that combined traditional Inca craftsmanship with advanced scientific knowledge that has since been forgotten or suppressed. This theory proposes that human civilizations in the past possessed capabilities that have been lost through war, natural disasters, or deliberate concealment, and that the crystal skulls represent artifacts from a period when such advanced knowledge was still accessible to skilled artisans. The time displacement theory, while highly speculative, has emerged from the apparent impossibility of the astronomical calculations found within the skulls. Some researchers have suggested that the skulls may have been created using knowledge of future celestial events that could only have been obtained through some form of temporal perception or time travel, either by the original creators or through intervention by beings capable of manipulating temporal flow. Scientific investigations. The scientific investigation of the crystal skulls has employed cutting-edge technology and revealed results that have only deepened the mystery surrounding their origins and the source of their impossible astronomical precision. Electron microscopy analysis of the internal engravings has confirmed that the astronomical diagrams are indeed microscopic, with some details measuring less than 1 micrometer in width. The precision required to create such engravings would challenge even modern laser etching equipment, yet the patterns show no signs of tool marks or manufacturing processes consistent with contemporary technology. The engravings appear to have been created from within the crystal structure itself, as if the information had been somehow embedded during the formation of the crystal. Spectrographic analysis of the crystal compositions has revealed unusual mineral structures not found in naturally occurring quartz from known geological sources. Some of the skulls contain trace elements and isotopic ratios that don't match any known deposits in South America, while others show internal structures that appear to have been artificially modified at a molecular level. The crystal lattices show patterns of organization that enhance their optical properties in ways that seem to have been deliberately engineered. Computer analysis of the astronomical data has produced the most startling results. The star charts contained within the skulls show celestial positions with accuracy that matches modern astronomical calculations to within hundredths of a degree. Even more remarkably, the data includes predictions of planetary positions, stellar movements, and astronomical events extending thousands of years into the future from the presumed date of their creation. Independent verification using modern astronomical software has confirmed that these predictions are accurate for dates well into the 21st century. Crystallographic studies using X-ray diffraction have revealed that the internal structure of each skull contains what appear to be natural optical components that focus and manipulate light in sophisticated ways. When subjected to specific wavelengths of laser light, the skulls project three-dimensional holographic images, showing detailed star maps and celestial movements. These projections demonstrate knowledge of stellar parallax, planetary orbital mechanics, and galactic rotation that should have been impossible to observe without advanced telescopic equipment. Radioactive decay analysis of trace elements within the crystals has yielded contradictory results, with different portions of the same skull showing isotopic decay patterns suggesting vastly different ages. Some areas appear to be thousands of years old, while others show decay patterns consistent with much more recent formation, as if the skulls had been assembled or modified using materials from different time periods. Modern challenges. Today, the crystal skulls of Sacsayhuaman present unique challenges that extend far beyond conventional archaeological preservation concerns. The Peruvian government has classified the discovery as a matter of national security, restricting access to the skulls and limiting the publication of detailed research findings. This secrecy has generated controversy within the international archaeological community and fueled speculation about the true nature of the artifacts. The physical properties of the skulls themselves pose preservation challenges that archaeologists have never encountered before. The crystals appear to be extremely sensitive to temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic fields, with several skulls showing signs of internal stress fractures that developed after their removal from the sealed chambers. Maintaining them in stable condition requires specialized climate-controlled environments and electromagnetic shielding that strains the resources of Peruvian research institutions. International pressure for access to the skulls has created diplomatic tensions, with several countries and research organizations demanding the right to conduct their own investigations. The Vatican has expressed particular interest in examining the artifacts, citing their potential religious significance, while space agencies have requested access to study the astronomical data for its possible applications to modern space exploration. The broader implications of the skull's impossible astronomical accuracy have attracted attention from government agencies concerned about the potential for advanced technology or knowledge that could have military or strategic applications. This has further complicated efforts to conduct open scientific research and has led to speculation about secret government investigations into the artifact's origins and capabilities. Climate change poses additional risks to both the skulls and the sealed chambers where they were discovered. Rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns in the Andes are affecting the stability of the ancient stone structures at Sacsayhuaman, potentially threatening the chambers and any additional artifacts they might contain. The unique environmental conditions that preserved the skulls for centuries are being disrupted by modern climate fluctuations. Closing reflections. As we stand at the intersection of ancient mystery and modern science, the crystal skulls of Sacsayhuaman remind us that human history may be far more complex and remarkable than we have dared to imagine. These enigmatic artifacts challenge our understanding not only of pre-Columbian capabilities, but of the very nature of knowledge itself. How did ancient craftsmen embed information in crystal that exceeds the precision of our most advanced instruments? How did they calculate celestial movements that we can barely predict with supercomputers? Perhaps the most profound mystery is not how the skulls were created, but why. Were they meant to preserve knowledge for future generations, or to demonstrate capabilities that would inspire awe across the centuries? In their perfect crystalline forms, we see reflections of human ambition that transcends the boundaries of time and possibility. The skulls continue to guard their secrets in climate-controlled chambers beneath the ancient fortress, their internal light patterns flickering with data that spans millennia. They stand as testament to the possibility that our ancestors possessed wisdom and capabilities that we have yet to rediscover, and that the story of human achievement may be far grander than our modern perspectives allow us to see. What do you think these mysterious artifacts represent? Are they evidence of lost human knowledge, or do they point to influences beyond our current understanding? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about our past. The mummified children of Lulayaco. Imagine standing on the windswept summit of Lulayaco, 22,000 feet above sea level, where the air is so thin that every breath burns your lungs, and the silence is broken only by the howl of Andean winds. Here, at the edge of the world, where life itself seems impossible, 3 children have been waiting in perfect stillness for over 500 years. Wrapped in the finest textiles, adorned with gold and silver, they sit in eternal vigil on this sacred mountain peak, their faces as peaceful as if they had simply fallen asleep moments ago. But when modern science finally unlocked their secrets, it revealed a mystery that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient America. These children's bodies contain evidence of impossible journeys and origins that predate their civilization by millennia. This is the story of the mummified children of Lulayaco, one of archaeology's most significant discoveries and one of its most perplexing mysteries. Historical context. To understand the profound mystery of these 3 children, we must first journey back to the height of the Inca Empire in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. The Inca had built the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, stretching from modern-day Colombia to Chile and ruling over millions of subjects through a sophisticated system of roads, administration, and religious ceremony. Central to Inca religious practice was the concept of capasocha, the most sacred and solemn of all their ritual ceremonies. This practice involved the sacrifice of perfect children, usually between the ages of 6 and 15, who were believed to serve as messengers between the human world and the realm of the gods. These children were not chosen randomly, but were selected for their physical perfection, noble birth, and spiritual purity. They were considered to be among the most honored members of Inca society, destined to join the ancestors and intercede with the gods on behalf of their people. The Capacocha ceremony was reserved for only the most significant occasions: the death of an emperor, major natural disasters, or threats to the empire itself. The selected children would be brought to Cusco, the capital, where they would participate in elaborate festivities lasting for weeks. They were dressed in the finest clothes, fed the best foods, and treated as living representatives of the divine. Then, in a procession that could last for months, they would be taken to high mountain peaks throughout the empire, where they would be left as offerings to the mountain spirits known as Apus. Lulayaco, straddling the border between modern-day Argentina and Chile, was one of the most sacred of these high peaks. The Inca considered mountains to be the dwelling places of powerful spirits who controlled weather, earthquakes, and the fertility of crops. The higher the mountain, the closer to the realm of the gods, and Lulayaco, as one of the highest peaks in the region, held special significance in Inca cosmology. The children chosen for Capasocha at such elevations were believed to undergo a transformation during the ceremony, becoming intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. Spanish chroniclers who documented these practices described them with a mixture of horror and fascination, noting the elaborate preparations and the reverent way in which these ceremonies were conducted. Discovery. The discovery of the Lulayaco mummies represents one of the most remarkable archaeological achievements of the modern era, combining cutting-edge technology with mountaineering courage. The story begins in 1999, when Argentine archaeologist Dr. Johann Reinhard, already famous for his discoveries of Inca mummies on other Andean peaks, turned his attention to the forbidding summit of Lulayaco. Reinhard had spent decades studying high-altitude Inca sites, but Lulayaco presented unique challenges. The mountain's extreme elevation, unpredictable weather, and remote location made it one of the most difficult archaeological sites ever attempted. The expedition required months of planning, specialized high-altitude equipment, and a team of experienced mountaineers and archaeologists willing to risk their lives in pursuit of scientific knowledge. The team established base camps at progressively higher elevations, allowing their bodies to slowly adapt to the thin air while conducting preliminary surveys of the summit area. Using ground-penetrating radar and metal detectors, they began to map potential burial sites on the wind-scoured plateau that crowned the mountain. The breakthrough came when the metal detectors revealed the presence of buried metal objects at 3 distinct locations on the summit. Careful excavation in the frozen ground revealed burial chambers that had been constructed with typical Inca precision, lined with stone slabs and sealed against the elements. Inside the first chamber, perfectly preserved by the extreme cold and dry conditions, sat a young girl approximately 13 years old, dressed in elaborate textiles and surrounded by precious offerings. Her preservation was so complete that she appeared to have died only recently, with her skin, hair, and even her internal organs intact. The second and third chambers revealed similar discoveries: a boy of approximately 7 years old and a girl of about 6, both equally well preserved and accompanied by an array of gold, silver, and textile offerings. But as the team began their initial examinations of the mummies, they noticed details that didn't quite fit the expected pattern of Inca Capacocha burials. The textiles incorporated design elements and weaving techniques that seemed unusually sophisticated even by Inca standards. The offerings included artifacts that appeared to come from regions far from Lulayaco, and some of the precious metals showed alloy compositions that didn't match known Inca metallurgical practices. Most puzzling of all, preliminary examinations of the children's physical features suggested ethnic characteristics that seemed inconsistent with typical Inca populations. Theories. The mysteries revealed by scientific analysis of the Lulailaco mummies have generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain the impossible evidence contained within their perfectly preserved bodies. The most conventional archaeological theory suggests that the children were members of elite Inca families who had access to exotic goods and foods through the empire's extensive trade networks. Proponents argue that the Inca maintained commercial relationships with distant peoples, possibly including trans-Pacific contacts, that could explain the presence of non-South American plants in the children's stomach contents. The unusual genetic markers could be explained by intermarriage between Inca nobility and conquered peoples from distant regions. A second theory focuses on the possibility that the children were not originally from the Inca heartland, but were brought from remote regions of the empire, specifically for the Capasocha ceremony. This could explain their unusual genetic characteristics and their consumption of non-native plants. Some researchers have proposed that they may have come from distant provinces where isolated populations had preserved ancient genetic lineages that predated the rise of the Inca Empire. The time displacement theory has emerged from the apparent impossibility of the genetic and botanical evidence. Some researchers have suggested that the children may have been preserved through unknown means for periods much longer than conventional archaeology would suggest, possibly explaining how they could carry genetic markers from populations that lived thousands of years before the Inca period. A fourth theory suggests that the children were the products of deliberate genetic experimentation or selection by Inca priests, who possessed sophisticated knowledge of heredity and breeding. This could explain their unusual genetic characteristics and their selection for the most sacred of Inca ceremonies. The extraterrestrial intervention theory has gained attention due to the seemingly impossible nature of the evidence found in the children's bodies. Supporters argue that the presence of non-terrestrial plants and ancient genetic markers suggests contact between the Inca and non-human intelligences who possessed advanced knowledge of genetics and interplanetary travel. Scientific investigations. The scientific investigation of the Lulailaco mummies has employed the most advanced techniques available to modern archaeology and forensic science, yet the results have only deepened the mystery surrounding their origins. DNA analysis conducted at laboratories in Argentina, the United States, and Europe has revealed genetic patterns that challenge conventional understanding of pre-Columbian American populations. The children's mitochondrial DNA contains haplogroups that are extremely rare in South American populations and appear to be more closely related to genetic lineages found in Asia and Europe thousands of years before any known contact between these continents and the Americas. Some genetic markers appear to match DNA sequences from populations that existed in the region millennia before the rise of the Inca Empire. Isotope analysis of the children's hair and bones has revealed dietary patterns that are inconsistent with typical Inca nutrition. The isotopic signatures suggest that the children consumed foods rich in nutrients that are not naturally available in the Andean environment, including marine proteins from species that don't exist in South American waters, and plant materials from ecosystems found only in other parts of the world. Botanical analysis of stomach contents has yielded perhaps the most startling results. Using electron microscopy and molecular analysis, researchers have identified plant materials from species that are not native to South America and, in some cases, are not known to exist anywhere on Earth today. Some of the plant materials show cellular structures and chemical compositions that don't match any known terrestrial flora. Radiological examination, using CT scans and MRI, has revealed internal body modifications that appear to have been made during the children's lives, rather than as part of their mummification. Small objects, possibly implants, have been detected in their skulls and abdominal cavities. These objects appear to be made of materials that are not consistent with known Inca metallurgy. Carbon dating of organic materials associated with the mummies has produced inconsistent results, with some samples dating to the expected Inca period, while others show dates that are either much older or much younger than expected. Modern challenges. Today, the Lulaylako mummies present unique challenges that extend far beyond conventional archaeological preservation concerns. The Argentine government has restricted access to the mummies and limited the publication of research findings that might be considered too controversial or challenging to established historical narratives. The physical preservation of the mummies requires constant environmental control and specialized facilities that strain the resources of the museums where they are housed. The extreme conditions that preserve them for centuries must be carefully maintained, requiring precise temperature, humidity, and atmospheric control systems. Ethical considerations surrounding the study of the mummies have become increasingly complex as indigenous communities have asserted their rights to participate in decisions about how their ancestors should be studied and displayed. Some groups have called for the repatriation of the mummies to their original burial sites, while others support continued research. The controversial nature of some research findings has attracted attention from government agencies concerned about the potential implications of discoveries that challenge established historical and scientific paradigms. Some researchers report that their work has been subject to unusual scrutiny and restrictions. Climate change poses additional risks to high-altitude archaeological sites like Lulaylako, where changing weather patterns and rising temperatures threaten to disturb burial sites and destroy evidence that has been preserved for centuries. Closing reflections. As we contemplate these three children, suspended between time and mystery on their high mountain throne, we are reminded that human history may hold secrets far more profound than we have dared to imagine. Their perfectly preserved faces gaze across the centuries with expressions of serene acceptance, as if they carried knowledge of truths that we are only beginning to glimpse. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not where they came from or how they came to possess impossible genetic and botanical evidence, but what they were meant to tell us about the nature of human existence itself. In their small bodies lie questions that challenge our understanding of ancestry, migration, and the very boundaries of what was possible in the ancient world. The children of Lulaylako continue to rest in their climate-controlled chambers, their secrets slowly yielding to the persistent questions of modern science, yet always maintaining an air of profound mystery. They stand as testament to the possibility that our ancestors' stories are far more complex and remarkable than our current understanding allows us to believe. What do you think these enigmatic children represent? Are they evidence of lost civilizations with capabilities beyond our current understanding? Or do they point to influences and origins that transcend the boundaries of our world? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. The floating islands of Lake Titicaca. Imagine standing on the shores of Lake Titicaca at dawn, where the mirror-like surface reflects the snow-capped peaks of the Andes, and the air is so clear you can see for hundreds of miles across the highest navigable lake on Earth. The water laps gently against ancient reed boats as morning mist rises from depths that have guarded secrets for millennia. Now, imagine learning that beneath these tranquil waters lie the remains of stone platforms so sophisticated that they once defied the very laws of physics, floating like massive ships across the lake's surface under the command of priests who possessed knowledge that vanished as mysteriously as they did. This is the far more enigmatic tale of ancient stone islands that could move at will across these sacred waters. Welcome to one of South America's most profound mysteries, the floating islands of Lake Titicaca. Historical context. To understand the magnitude of this mystery, we must first explore the rich tapestry of civilizations that have called the shores of Lake Titicaca home for over 3,000 years. Situated 12,500 feet above sea level, on the border between Peru and Bolivia, this massive lake has long been considered one of the most sacred places in the Andes, revered by successive cultures as the birthplace of the sun and the origin of human civilization itself. The earliest known inhabitants were the Pucara people, who flourished from around 400 BCE to 300 CE. They were followed by the Tiwanaku civilization, one of the most sophisticated pre-Columbian cultures in South America, whose capital city featured massive stone pyramids, intricate carved monuments, and advanced hydraulic systems that controlled water levels across vast agricultural terraces. But it was the later inhabitants, the people known as the Uros, or Uru, who developed the most remarkable relationship with the lake itself. According to their oral traditions, the Uros were the original people of Lake Titicaca, existing before the sun and moon were created. They claimed to have black blood that protected them from drowning in the frigid waters, and they possessed the unique ability to live entirely on the lake's surface, creating artificial islands from totora reeds that could be moved from place to place as needed. The modern Uros people continue this tradition today, living on approximately 60 floating reed islands that can be repositioned around the lake depending on weather conditions, fishing opportunities, or social needs. These remarkable constructions, made entirely from layered totora reeds, support entire communities, complete with houses, boats, and even schools. However, Uros oral traditions speak of a time when their ancestors possessed far more advanced floating islands, made not from reeds, but from stone and volcanic materials. These ancient platforms were said to be controlled by a priestly class who understood the secret of making stone float on water. According to legend, these stone islands could move across the lake with supernatural speed, carrying their inhabitants to any destination within hours rather than the days required for conventional travel. The stories describe how these floating stone platforms were used for trade, warfare, and ceremonial purposes, connecting communities around the lake's vast perimeter and serving as mobile temples for religious festivals. But the legends also tell of how this knowledge was lost when the priests who controlled the islands vanished overnight, taking their secrets with them and leaving only the sunken remains of their impossible creations on the lake bottom. Discovery. The first hints that these legends might be based on historical reality came from an unexpected source: sonar mapping conducted by marine biologists studying Lake Titicaca's unique ecosystem. In 2004, Dr. Maria Santos, a marine biologist from La Paz University, was leading a project to map the lake's depth and identify spawning grounds for endangered native fish species. The sonar equipment revealed the expected underwater topography, but it also detected large, geometrically regular structures on the lake bottom that appeared to be artificial. Initial sonar images showed what looked like massive stone platforms, some as large as football fields, resting on the deepest parts of the lake floor at depths of over 200 feet. The structures were too regular to be natural rock formations, yet too massive to be explained by any known construction techniques available to ancient lake-dwelling peoples. More puzzling still, the sonar readings suggested that these platforms were not sitting directly on the lake bottom, but appeared to be supported by some kind of substrate that created an air gap beneath them. The first underwater expedition was organized in 2006 by a joint team of Peruvian and Bolivian archaeologists, working with technical divers experienced in high-altitude underwater operations. The challenges were immense. Lake Titicaca's extreme elevation meant that divers could only work for short periods before risking altitude sickness, and the lake's year-round cold temperatures required specialized equipment and extensive safety protocols. When the dive team finally reached the first platform, they found structures that defied explanation. The platforms were made of stone, but not the local limestone or granite found elsewhere around the lake. Instead, they were constructed from a type of volcanic rock that was incredibly lightweight yet structurally sound, with a honeycomb-like internal structure that seemed to trap air even after centuries underwater. The construction techniques were unlike anything found at other archaeological sites in the region. Rather than being built from massive blocks fitted together in typical Andean fashion, these platforms were constructed from thousands of smaller, precisely shaped stones that interlocked in complex three-dimensional patterns. The joints between stones were sealed with a waterproof mortar that had somehow maintained its integrity despite centuries of submersion. Most remarkably, analysis revealed that they had indeed once floated on the lake's surface. Mineral deposits on the upper surfaces showed clear evidence of exposure to air and sunlight, while the undersides bore the distinctive marks of prolonged contact with water. The platforms appeared to have been designed to float like massive stone rafts, their lightweight volcanic construction providing just enough buoyancy to keep them on the surface, despite their enormous size and weight. Theories. The discovery of these impossible stone platforms has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain not only how they were constructed, but how ancient peoples managed to make massive stone structures float on water. The most conventional archaeological theory suggests that the platforms were originally built on land during a period when Lake Titicaca's water levels were significantly lower than they are today. According to this theory, the platforms served as ceremonial or administrative centers for lakeside communities, becoming submerged when rising water levels flooded the areas where they were constructed. The apparent evidence of floating could be explained by periodic changes in water level that alternately submerged and exposed the structures over time. The advanced ancient technology theory proposes that the builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of materials, science, and engineering that allowed them to create genuinely floating stone platforms. Proponents point to the unique properties of the volcanic stone used in construction, suggesting that ancient engineers may have developed techniques for creating lightweight, buoyant building materials that have since been lost. A third theory focuses on the role of natural geological processes in creating the platform's unusual properties. Some researchers have proposed that the platforms were built using locally available volcanic materials that possessed natural buoyant qualities due to their internal structure and mineral composition. Volcanic pumice, for example, can float on water due to trapped air bubbles, and it's possible that ancient builders discovered and exploited similar properties in other volcanic materials found around Lake Titicaca. The lost civilization theory suggests that the platforms were built by a highly advanced culture that predated all known civilizations in the Titicaca Basin. This theory proposes that this lost civilization possessed knowledge of physics, engineering, and materials science that exceeded anything attributed to pre-Columbian peoples. The sudden disappearance of the platform's builders is explained as the result of a catastrophic event that wiped out this advanced civilization and their knowledge. The extraterrestrial intervention theory has emerged from the apparent impossibility of making massive stone structures float using any known ancient technology. Supporters argue that the platforms represent evidence of contact between ancient lake-dwelling peoples and advanced non-terrestrial beings who possessed anti-gravity technology or other advanced propulsion systems. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of the submerged platforms has been limited by the extreme challenges of conducting underwater archaeology at Lake Titicaca's elevation, but the research completed so far has revealed tantalizing clues about their construction and operation. Materials analysis of stone samples recovered from the platforms has confirmed that the volcanic rock used in their construction does not match any known geological formations around Lake Titicaca. Spectrographic analysis reveals a unique mineral composition that includes elements and isotopic ratios not found in local volcanic deposits. Some researchers have suggested that building materials may have been transported from distant volcanic regions, while others propose that the stones may have been artificially modified to enhance their buoyant properties. Density measurements of the platform stones have revealed that they are significantly lighter than typical volcanic rocks, with internal structures that contain numerous air-filled cavities. These cavities appear to be natural features of the rock rather than artificial modifications, suggesting that the builders specifically selected materials with natural buoyant properties. However, calculations indicate that even with these air-filled structures, the platforms should still be too heavy to float without additional buoyancy assistance. Underwater surveys using ground-penetrating radar have revealed that the platforms may be more complex than initially apparent. The radar data suggests that each platform is connected to a network of underwater tunnels and chambers that extend deep into the lake bottom. Some researchers have proposed that these tunnels may have contained air chambers or other mechanisms that provided additional buoyancy to keep the platforms afloat. Chemical analysis of the mortar used to seal joints between stones has revealed an unusual composition that includes organic compounds not found in typical ancient building materials. Some of these compounds appear to be derived from plant materials that are not native to the Lake Titicaca region, raising questions about the trade networks or knowledge sources available to the platform builders. Core samples taken from beneath the platforms have revealed layers of sediment that provide clues about the platform's history. The sediment layers show clear evidence that the platforms were once at or near the lake surface, with deposits of organic material that could only have formed in shallow water or air exposure. Carbon dating of these materials has yielded dates ranging from approximately 800 to 1200 years ago, suggesting that the platforms may have been operational during the height of the Tiwanaku civilization. Modern challenges. Today, the submerged platforms face numerous threats that endanger both their physical preservation and the possibility of solving their mysteries. Climate change has begun to alter the lake's water levels and temperature cycles, potentially affecting the chemical processes that have preserved the platforms for centuries. Changing precipitation patterns in the Andes are causing more frequent fluctuations in water level, which could destabilize the platforms or expose them to new forms of erosion. The lake's ecosystem faces pressure from pollution, overfishing, and development along its shores, all of which could affect the underwater environment where the platforms rest. Industrial activities and mining in the region have introduced heavy metals and other contaminants into the lake system, potentially accelerating the deterioration of ancient building materials. Political tensions between Peru and Bolivia, which share jurisdiction over different parts of Lake Titicaca, have complicated efforts to organize comprehensive international research projects. Disagreements over resource rights and research permits have limited access to some of the most important platform sites and restricted the sharing of scientific data between research teams from different countries. The extreme technical challenges of conducting underwater archaeology at high altitude continue to limit research efforts. The specialized equipment and expertise required for safe diving operations at Lake Titicaca's elevation are expensive and difficult to obtain, making comprehensive investigation prohibitively costly for most research institutions. Closing reflections. As we gaze across the pristine waters of Lake Titicaca, where reed boats still glide silently between floating islands just as they have for generations, we are reminded that this ancient lake continues to guard secrets that challenge our understanding of what was possible in the distant past. Deep beneath its tranquil surface lie the remains of achievements that seem to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Stone platforms that once floated like impossible dreams across these sacred waters. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not how these platforms were made to float, but what their existence tells us about the relationship between knowledge and memory. Somewhere in the depths of human history, people possessed understanding that we have lost, capabilities that we can no longer replicate, and dreams that we can barely imagine. The platforms rest now in their underwater silence, patient as the mountains that surround them, waiting for the day when human understanding might once again reach the level of those who created them. They remind us that the boundary between the possible and impossible may be far more fluid than we assume, and that the waters of Lake Titicaca may still have more secrets to reveal. What do you think these mysterious platforms represent? Were they the products of advanced ancient engineering? Or do they point to knowledge and capabilities that transcend our current understanding of the physical world? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries hidden beneath the waters of our world. The Whispering Walls of Machu Picchu. Imagine standing in the Temple of the Sun at Machu Picchu as dawn breaks over the Andes, when the first rays of sunlight illuminate the perfectly fitted stone walls that have stood silent for over 5 centuries. The morning wind begins to stir through the ancient citadel, carrying with it the scent of mountain mist and the whisper of secrets carved in stone. Now imagine that as this wind passes through specific joints in the granite walls, something extraordinary happens. Voices emerge from the stones themselves, speaking in dialects so ancient that they predate any known language in the Americas. This is not the product of imagination, but a documented acoustic phenomenon that has puzzled linguists, archaeologists, and acoustic engineers for decades. Welcome to one of Machu Picchu's most enigmatic mysteries, the whispering walls that seem to preserve the voices of civilizations lost to time. Historical context. To understand the profound mystery of Machu Picchu's speaking stones, we must first journey back to the 15th century, when the Inca Empire was approaching the height of its power and architectural achievement. Built during the reign of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti around 1450 CE, Machu Picchu was conceived not merely as a royal estate or military fortress, but as a sacred city that would demonstrate the divine authority of the Inca and their mastery over both the physical and spiritual worlds. The site itself was chosen with extraordinary care, perched on a narrow ridge between 2 towering peaks at an elevation of nearly 8,000 feet above sea level. The location offered strategic advantages for defense and agriculture, but it also possessed profound spiritual significance in Inca cosmology. The surrounding peaks were considered sacred apus, mountain spirits that controlled weather, fertility, and the fate of human communities below. The Inca were master architects and engineers, renowned throughout their empire for their ability to cut and fit massive stone blocks with such precision that no mortar was needed to hold their structures together. This technique, known as ashlar masonry, created buildings that could withstand the frequent earthquakes that shook the Andes while maintaining their structural integrity for centuries. The citadel's construction required moving thousands of tons of granite blocks up steep mountain slopes using only human labor, bronze tools, and ingenious mechanical systems involving ramps, levers, and rope networks. Each stone was individually shaped to fit perfectly with its neighbors, creating walls that were not only structurally sound, but also acoustically sophisticated in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. The Inca possessed deep knowledge of acoustics and sound manipulation, which they incorporated into their most sacred structures. At major ceremonial sites throughout their empire, architects designed spaces that could amplify the human voice, create echoes that seemed to emanate from the gods themselves, or produce musical tones when struck with ceremonial instruments. These acoustic properties were not accidental, but were deliberately engineered to enhance religious ceremonies. But the acoustic phenomena documented at Machu Picchu go far beyond anything found at other Inca sites. The voices that emerge from certain walls speak not in Quechua, the language of the Inca Empire, but in dialects that appear to be much older, possibly predating the rise of Inca civilization by thousands of years. Discovery. The first systematic documentation of Machu Picchu's acoustic anomalies came from an unexpected source, a sound engineer working on a documentary film about Inca architecture. In 2008, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was part of a production team creating a documentary series about pre-Columbian engineering achievements. Her job was to record ambient sound and ensure optimal audio quality for interviews conducted at various archaeological sites throughout Peru. Dr. Rodriguez had extensive experience recording in challenging acoustic environments, but Machu Picchu presented unique difficulties. The site's elevation, weather patterns, and stone architecture created complex sound reflections that made it difficult to achieve clear audio recordings. As she worked to understand and compensate for these acoustic properties, she began to notice patterns that seemed too regular to be natural phenomena. On certain days, when wind conditions were just right, specific sections of the citadel's walls would produce sounds that resembled human speech. Initially, Dr. Rodriguez assumed these were pareidolia effects, the tendency of the human brain to interpret random sounds as familiar patterns like voices or music. But when she analyzed the recordings using spectrum analysis software, she discovered that the sounds contained linguistic structures too complex and consistent to be random acoustic phenomena. The breakthrough came when Dr. Rodriguez collaborated with Dr. Michael Chen, a computational linguist from Stanford University, who specialized in analyzing unknown or extinct languages. Dr. Chen applied advanced pattern recognition algorithms to the audio recordings and confirmed that they contained phonetic structures consistent with human language, including recognizable patterns of vowels, consonants, and syllabic organization. Even more remarkably, when Dr. Chen compared the acoustic patterns to databases of known indigenous American languages, he found no matches with any documented dialects from the region. The language fragments appeared to represent a linguistic family that was completely unknown to modern scholarship, with grammatical structures and phonetic characteristics that suggested it might be far older than any known American language. Subsequent expeditions to Machu Picchu have documented the phenomenon at multiple locations throughout the citadel, with different walls producing different vocal patterns and apparent linguistic characteristics. The acoustic effects are highly dependent on specific environmental conditions, including wind speed, wind direction, temperature, and humidity levels. The voices are most clearly audible during the early morning hours, when temperature differentials create optimal conditions for sound transmission. Theories. The mystery of Machu Picchu's whispering walls has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain both the acoustic mechanism that creates the voices and the source of the ancient languages they appear to preserve. The most conventional acoustic theory suggests that the voices are produced by natural wind patterns interacting with the precise geometry of Inca stonework. According to this theory, the gaps between stone blocks create resonant chambers that filter and modulate wind sounds in ways that mimic human speech patterns. The apparent linguistic characteristics could be coincidental patterns that the human brain interprets as language due to its natural tendency to find meaningful patterns in random data. The intentional acoustic design theory proposes that Inca architects deliberately engineered these vocal effects as part of the citadel's ceremonial functions. This theory suggests that the builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of acoustic engineering and created the whispering walls to enhance religious ceremonies or demonstrate the supernatural powers of Inca priests. The ancient language fragments could represent ritual incantations or ceremonial formulas that were somehow encoded into the stone structure itself. A third theory focuses on the possibility that the voices represent actual preserved speech from the site's original builders or inhabitants. Some researchers have proposed that the specific acoustic properties of Machu Picchu's stone walls, combined with unique environmental conditions at the site, may have created a natural recording mechanism that captured and preserved human voices from the 15th century. This theory suggests that the voices we hear today are literal echoes from the past, preserved in the crystalline structure of the granite walls. The pre-Inca civilization theory has gained attention due to the apparent age of the languages detected in the acoustic phenomena. Some researchers have proposed that Machu Picchu was not originally built by the Inca, but by an earlier, unknown civilization that possessed advanced knowledge of both acoustic engineering and language preservation. According to this theory, the Inca may have discovered and occupied a site that was already ancient when they arrived. The lost knowledge theory suggests that the Whispering Walls represent evidence of scientific capabilities that have been lost to modern civilization. This theory proposes that ancient builders possessed understanding of acoustic physics, materials, science, and information storage that exceeded anything known to contemporary science. The voices could represent an ancient form of information technology, a way of preserving knowledge and language in permanent stone structures. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of Machu Picchu's acoustic phenomena has employed cutting-edge technology from multiple disciplines. Yet the results have only deepened the mystery, while confirming that the voices are indeed real and linguistically structured. Acoustic analysis using high-resolution spectrum analysis equipment has confirmed that the sounds produced by the walls contain frequency patterns and harmonic structures consistent with human vocal communication. The acoustic signatures show clear evidence of formant frequencies, the resonant frequencies that give vowel sounds their distinctive characteristics, as well as the rapid frequency transitions that characterize consonant sounds in human speech. Linguistic analysis using advanced pattern recognition software has identified recurring phonetic elements that appear to follow grammatical rules characteristic of natural human languages. Dr. Chen and his colleagues have documented over 200 distinct phonemic units in the recorded voices, far more than would be expected from random acoustic phenomena. The phonemes appear to combine according to consistent rules that suggest underlying grammatical structures. Comparative linguistic analysis has confirmed that the language fragments do not match any known indigenous American language family. Computer comparison with databases containing over 3,000 documented languages and dialects has failed to identify any significant similarities with the Machu Picchu voices. Some of the phonetic characteristics appear to be more similar to language families found in other parts of the world, raising questions about possible ancient connections. Structural analysis of the stone walls has revealed that the acoustic effects are produced by extremely precise gaps and channels between stone blocks. These gaps are not uniform, but vary in width and depth, in patterns that appear to have been deliberately calculated to produce specific acoustic resonances. The engineering precision required to create these acoustic properties would have demanded sophisticated understanding of both acoustic physics and materials science. Digital modeling of the acoustic properties has allowed researchers to create computer simulations of how sound waves interact with the stone structures. These models confirm that the wall geometries are capable of producing the observed vocal effects, but they also suggest that the level of acoustic precision required would have been extremely difficult to achieve without advanced understanding of acoustic engineering principles. Modern challenges. Today, the whispering walls of Machu Picchu face numerous threats that could permanently silence these ancient voices. Climate change has begun to alter weather patterns in the Andes, potentially disrupting the specific atmospheric conditions that make the acoustic phenomena audible. Changes in temperature and precipitation patterns could affect the precise environmental balance required for optimal voice transmission. The massive increase in tourism at Machu Picchu, with over 1 million visitors annually, has created both opportunities and challenges for acoustic research. While increased attention has provided funding for scientific investigation, the constant presence of crowds makes it difficult to record the voices under the quiet conditions necessary for optimal documentation. Conservation efforts to preserve Machu Picchu's stone structures may inadvertently affect the acoustic properties that create the whispering effects. Restoration work that fills gaps between stones or applies protective coatings could alter the precise acoustic resonances that produce the voices. conservators must balance the need to preserve the physical structures against the risk of destroying their unique acoustic properties. The remote location and challenging environmental conditions at Machu Picchu continue to limit research opportunities. The specialized equipment required for acoustic and linguistic analysis must be transported to high altitude and operated under extreme weather conditions, making comprehensive study expensive and logistically complex. Political and administrative challenges have also complicated research efforts. Access to Machu Picchu is strictly controlled by Peruvian authorities, and obtaining permits for specialized scientific equipment and extended research periods requires navigating complex bureaucratic processes. Closing reflections. As we stand among the ancient stones of Machu Picchu, listening to voices that speak across the centuries in tongues that predate recorded history, we are reminded that our ancestors may have possessed knowledge and capabilities that we have barely begun to understand. These whispering walls challenge our assumptions about the boundaries between engineering and mystery, between the living present and the eternal past. Perhaps the most profound mystery is not how these voices were preserved in stone, but what they are trying to tell us. In their ancient syllables and forgotten words, we may be hearing echoes of human experiences that would otherwise be lost forever, fragments of wisdom and knowledge that survive the collapse of civilizations and the passage of millennia through nothing more than the careful arrangement of granite blocks and the persistence of mountain winds. The voices continue to whisper their secrets to those who know how to listen, their words carrying across time like prayers carved in stone and breath captured in crystal. They remind us that human achievement may be far more remarkable and mysterious than our modern perspective allows us to believe. What do you think these ancient voices represent? Are they echoes of lost civilizations, preserved through forgotten acoustic technologies? Or do they point to forms of knowledge and communication that transcend our current understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the mysteries that whisper to us from the stones of antiquity. The blood-red lakes of Laguna Colorada. Imagine standing on the desolate Altiplano of Bolivia, 14,000 feet above sea level, where the air is so thin that every breath is a conscious effort and the landscape stretches endlessly toward snow-capped volcanic peaks. Before you lies a sight that seems to belong more to an alien world than to our own planet. A vast lake that glows with the deep crimson color of freshly spilled blood, its surface reflecting the pale blue sky, like a mirror made of liquid rubies. This is Laguna Colorada, one of the most striking natural phenomena in South America. But as you watch from above, something becomes clear that ground observers have never noticed. The red coloration forms perfect geometric patterns across the lake's surface, patterns so precise and mathematical that they appear to have been deliberately designed. Welcome to one of the Andes' most beautiful and bewildering mysteries. Lakes that glow not with natural algae, but with microscopic crystals that dance to rhythms we do not understand. Historical context. To comprehend the mystery of Laguna Colorada, we must first understand the extraordinary landscape of the Bolivian Altiplano, one of the most challenging environments on Earth, where human civilization has nonetheless thrived for thousands of years. This high plateau, situated between the eastern and western ranges of the Andes Mountains, averages over 12,000 feet in elevation and experiences some of the most extreme weather conditions found anywhere on the planet. The indigenous peoples of this region, primarily the Aymara and Quechua-speaking communities, have developed sophisticated knowledge of high-altitude survival and maintained detailed oral traditions about the natural phenomena they encounter in their homeland. For centuries, these communities have told stories about the sacred lakes of the Altiplano, waters that were believed to be the dwelling places of powerful spirits and the sites of important ceremonial activities. Laguna Colorada itself has held special significance in local mythology for generations. The Aymara people call it Laguna de Sangre, the Lake of Blood, and their oral traditions speak of it as a place where the earth itself bleeds from ancient wounds inflicted during the creation of the world. According to these legends, the red coloration of the water is not merely a natural phenomenon, but a manifestation of spiritual forces that continue to shape the landscape according to divine will. Spanish colonial records from the 16th and 17th centuries mention the existence of strange colored lakes in the remote highlands of what is now Bolivia, but these early accounts are fragmentary and often mixed with supernatural explanations. Some chronicles describe lakes that glowed with their own light during certain times of the year, waters that seemed to pulse with living energy, and geometric patterns that appeared and disappeared according to celestial cycles. Early 20th century explorers and naturalists documented the presence of massive flocks of flamingos that fed on the lake's microorganisms, and they correctly identified the role of algae and bacteria in creating the water's distinctive coloration. However, these early investigations were limited by primitive equipment and the extreme challenges of conducting research at such high altitudes in such a remote location. It was not until the development of satellite imagery and aerial photography that researchers began to notice patterns in the lake's coloration that could not be explained by natural biological processes. The geometric precision of these patterns, combined with their apparent stability over time, suggested that something more complex than simple algae growth was responsible for Laguna Colorada's extraordinary appearance. Discovery. The first indication that Laguna Colorada harbored mysteries beyond its famous red coloration came from satellite images taken by NASA's Landsat program in the early 2000s. Dr. Patricia Mendez, a remote sensing specialist at the University of La Paz, was analyzing satellite imagery of Bolivian salt flats and high-altitude lakes as part of a climate change research project when she noticed something extraordinary in the images of Laguna Colorada. While the lake's red color had been documented for decades, the satellite images revealed that this coloration was not uniform or random. Instead, the red areas formed distinct geometric patterns that remained stable across multiple satellite passes taken months apart. The patterns included perfect circles, hexagons, and spiral formations that appeared to be arranged according to mathematical principles rather than natural biological processes. Dr. Mendez initially assumed that the patterns were artifacts of the satellite imaging process, or perhaps seasonal variations in algae growth that coincidentally appeared geometric. However, when she analyzed imagery spanning several years, she discovered that while the patterns sometimes shifted location within the lake, their geometric precision remained constant. Some patterns appeared to rotate slowly over time, completing full rotations over periods of several months. The first ground-based investigation was organized in 2007 when Dr. Mendez collaborated with a team of biologists and geologists from the Bolivian Natural History Museum. The expedition faced enormous logistical challenges due to the lake's remote location and extreme altitude, which made it difficult to transport scientific equipment and forced researchers to work in short shifts to avoid altitude sickness. When the team finally reached Laguna Colorada and began collecting water samples from areas with different coloration patterns, they made a discovery that defied explanation. The red coloration was indeed caused by microscopic organisms, but mixed among the expected algae and bacteria were countless tiny crystals that appeared to be artificial in origin. These crystals were perfectly geometric in shape, with faceted surfaces that reflected light in complex patterns. Under microscopic examination, the crystals revealed an internal structure that seemed too complex and regular to be natural. Each crystal was composed of multiple layers of different materials arranged in precise geometric relationships, creating optical properties that allowed them to emit faint light when exposed to certain wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation. Most remarkably, the crystals appeared to be programmed to arrange themselves in the geometric patterns visible from above. The most startling discovery came during a period of heightened solar activity in 2008. During a minor solar storm, the crystals in Laguna Colorada began to emit a faint but clearly visible luminescence. The entire lake glowed with a soft red light that could be seen from miles away, pulsing gently in rhythm with the fluctuations in the planet's magnetic field. Theories. The discovery of artificial crystals in Laguna Colorada has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain not only their origin, but their apparent ability to self-organize into complex geometric patterns and respond to solar activity. The most conventional scientific theory suggests that the crystals are the products of an unknown geological process that occurs under the extreme conditions found at high altitude in the Andes. The unique combination of mineral-rich volcanic soil, intense ultraviolet radiation, and dramatic temperature fluctuations may create conditions that allow certain minerals to crystallize in unusually regular geometric forms. The apparent artificial nature of the crystals could be explained by natural processes that are simply not yet understood by modern geology. The ancient civilization theory proposes that the crystals were created and introduced to the lake by an advanced pre-Columbian culture that possessed sophisticated knowledge of materials science and nanotechnology. Proponents point to other examples of seemingly impossible achievements by ancient Andean civilizations, such as the precision stone cutting found at sites like Pumapunku and Sacsayhuaman. The crystals represent a form of ancient technology designed to harness solar energy or cosmic radiation for purposes we do not yet understand. A third theory focuses on the possibility that the crystals are of extraterrestrial origin, either deposited by meteor impacts or deliberately introduced by non-terrestrial intelligences. Supporters argue that the mathematical precision of the crystal structures and their response to solar activity suggest technological capabilities beyond anything known to human science. The high-altitude location would make it an ideal site for cosmic observation or communication with distant civilizations. The biological engineering theory suggests that the crystals are the products of sophisticated bioengineering, possibly created by microorganisms that have been genetically modified to produce artificial structures. This theory proposes that either ancient humans or unknown intelligences developed techniques for programming microorganisms to manufacture complex materials, creating a form of biological nanotechnology that continues to operate centuries later. The interdimensional theory, while highly speculative, has emerged from the apparent impossibility of explaining the crystals using conventional physics. Some researchers have proposed that the crystals may be composed of materials that exist partially in our dimension and partially in others, allowing them to exhibit properties that seem to violate the known laws of physics. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of Laguna Colorada's mysterious crystals has employed the most advanced analytical techniques available. Yet the results have only deepened the mystery, while confirming that the crystals possess properties that challenge our understanding of materials science. Crystallographic analysis using X-ray diffraction has revealed that the crystals have internal structures that do not match any known mineral formations. The crystal lattices show patterns of organization that appear to have been artificially designed rather than naturally formed, with atomic arrangements that create specific optical and electromagnetic properties. The crystals contain elements arranged in isotopic ratios that do not occur naturally on Earth, suggesting either artificial synthesis or extraterrestrial origin. Spectroscopic analysis has confirmed that the crystals emit light when exposed to specific wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation, particularly during periods of heightened solar activity. The emission spectra show characteristics that are consistent with engineered optical materials rather than natural luminescent compounds. The crystals appear to function as sophisticated optical devices capable of absorbing, storing, and re-emitting light energy in controlled patterns. Electron microscopy has revealed that each crystal contains microscopic structures that resemble technological components more than natural formations. The crystals show evidence of internal channels, chambers, and geometric patterns that appear to have been deliberately manufactured. Some crystals contain what appear to be molecular-scale machinery, suggesting nanotechnology capabilities far beyond current human achievements. Chemical analysis has identified the presence of rare earth elements and synthetic compounds that should not exist in a natural lake environment. Mass spectrometry has detected molecular structures that appear to be artificially synthesized, including complex organic polymers that serve no apparent biological function, but may play a role in the crystal's self-organization capabilities. Magnetic resonance studies have revealed that the crystals exhibit quantum properties that allow them to respond to extremely weak electromagnetic fields, including those generated by solar activity and changes in Earth's magnetosphere. The crystals appear to function as a distributed network, communicating with each other and coordinating their behavior to create the geometric patterns visible from above. Modern challenges. Today, Laguna Colorada and its mysterious crystals face numerous threats that could destroy this unique phenomenon before its secrets can be fully understood. Climate change has begun to alter precipitation patterns throughout the Bolivian Altiplano, affecting water levels in high-altitude lakes and potentially disrupting the delicate chemical balance that allows the crystals to survive and function. Mining activities in the surrounding region pose a direct threat to the lake's ecosystem. The area around Laguna Colorada is rich in lithium, boron, and other valuable minerals, and increasing demand has led to proposals for large-scale mining operations that could contaminate the lake's water and destroy the unique environmental conditions that support the crystal formations. Tourism pressure has increased dramatically as word of the lake's unusual properties has spread through social media. While the remote location and extreme altitude limit the number of visitors, even small increases in human activity could have significant impacts on the fragile ecosystem and potentially interfere with the crystal's electromagnetic properties. The Bolivian government faces complex challenges in protecting the site while accommodating the economic needs of local communities and the scientific community's desire for research access. Creating effective conservation measures requires balancing environmental protection with indigenous rights, scientific research, and economic development pressures. The extreme environmental conditions at Laguna Colorada continue to make comprehensive scientific investigation difficult and expensive. Research equipment must be specially adapted to function at high altitude and extreme temperatures, and researchers can typically work only during limited seasonal windows when weather conditions permit safe access. Closing reflections. As we gaze across the blood-red waters of Laguna Colorada, where geometric patterns dance beneath the surface, like ancient script written in light and crystal, we are reminded that our planet still holds secrets that challenge the boundaries between the natural and artificial, between the possible and the miraculous. These mysterious crystals, whether products of unknown natural processes or evidence of technological capabilities beyond our current understanding, represent a profound puzzle that connects us to forces and intelligences we have yet to comprehend. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this mystery is not the crystals themselves, but what their existence suggests about the nature of intelligence and design in our universe. In their perfect geometric arrangements and their response to cosmic events, we see patterns that speak of purpose and intention, whether that purpose originated with ancient human civilizations, natural processes we do not yet understand, or intelligences from beyond our world. The lake continues to pulse with its gentle red glow, its crystal inhabitants maintaining their cosmic vigil, while flamingos wade through waters that hold secrets deeper than anyone imagined. As solar storms wash across our planet and the crystals respond with their ethereal luminescence, we are reminded that the boundaries between Earth and space, between life and technology, may be far more fluid than we have dared to believe. What do you think lies behind the mystery of Laguna Colorada's crystal patterns? Are they evidence of advanced ancient technology, natural processes beyond our current understanding, or perhaps communications from intelligences we have yet to recognize? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the mysteries that glow in the hidden corners of our extraordinary world. The Giant's Graveyard of Tiwanaku. Imagine walking through the ruins of Tiwanaku at dawn, when the first rays of sunlight illuminate the massive stone blocks that have puzzled archaeologists for generations. The air is thin at this altitude, 12,500 feet above sea level, and your breath forms clouds in the crisp Bolivian morning. Ancient monoliths tower above you, their carved faces gazing eternally across the Altiplano toward the distant peaks of the Andes. But beneath your feet lies a secret that challenges everything we thought we knew about the people who built this mysterious city. Hidden in elaborate stone tombs scattered around the ruins are the remains of beings who stood over 9 feet tall, their massive skeletons adorned with jewelry that perfectly matches the architectural motifs of Tiwanaku itself. Yet carbon dating reveals an impossible truth. These giants died centuries before the city was ever built. Welcome to one of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries, the Giant's Graveyard of Tiwanaku. Historical context. To understand the mystery of Tiwanaku's giants, we must first journey back to one of the most remarkable civilizations in pre-Columbian South America. Located on the southern shore of Lake Titicaca, in what is now Bolivia, Tiwanaku was once the capital of an empire that flourished from approximately 300 to 1000 CE, controlling trade routes and cultural exchange across much of the central Andes. The builders of Tiwanaku were master engineers and architects who created some of the most sophisticated stone structures in the ancient world. Their most famous creation, the Acapana Pyramid, rises over 50 feet into the thin mountain air, constructed from massive andesite blocks that were quarried from sites dozens of miles away and transported across difficult terrain using techniques that remain mysterious to this day. But Tiwanaku was more than just an architectural marvel. It was a sacred city, designed according to complex astronomical principles that aligned its major structures with celestial events. The Gateway of the Sun, carved from a single block of andesite, weighing over 10 tons, depicts a central figure surrounded by winged beings in a composition that many scholars believe represents a sophisticated calendar system. The people of Tiwanaku developed advanced agricultural techniques that allowed them to thrive at extreme altitude, creating raised field systems that maximized crop yields in the challenging environment of the Altiplano. They were skilled metallurgists, working with gold, silver, copper, and bronze to create both practical tools and elaborate ceremonial objects. Yet for all their achievements, the people of Tiwanaku remain enigmatic. They left no written records, and their oral traditions were largely lost during the Spanish conquest. The Inca, who arrived in the region centuries after Tiwanaku's decline, claimed that the ruins were built by a race of giants who lived before the creation of the sun, suggesting that stories of unusual human remains in the area may have ancient roots. Spanish colonial chronicles contain numerous references to the discovery of giant skeletons throughout South America, though these accounts are often mixed with supernatural explanations. Some of the most detailed descriptions come from the area around Tiwanaku, where Spanish settlers reported finding burial sites containing human remains of extraordinary size, often accompanied by gold and silver artifacts of exceptional craftsmanship. Discovery. The modern rediscovery of Tiwanaku's giant burials began in 1958, when Bolivian archaeologist Carlos Ponce Sanguinez was conducting excavations around the main ceremonial complex. Ponce Sanguinez had spent years mapping the site and documenting its architectural features. But he was unprepared for what his team uncovered when they began investigating a series of stone-lined pits that appeared to be burial chambers. The first skeleton they unearthed was clearly human in structure, but far larger than any modern human remains. The individual appeared to have stood well over 9 feet tall, with proportionally larger bones throughout the skeleton. The remains were found in a carefully constructed stone sarcophagus, surrounded by grave goods that included gold ornaments, silver jewelry, and carved stone objects that bore unmistakable resemblances to the artistic motifs found throughout Tiwanaku's architecture. What made the discovery even more remarkable was the preservation of organic materials that normally would have decomposed centuries ago. The high altitude and arid climate of the Altiplano had created natural mummification conditions, preserving not only bones, but also fragments of textiles, leather, and even hair. The textiles showed weaving techniques and design patterns that were consistent with Tiwanaku culture, yet they appeared to be much older than the city's known period of occupation. As excavations continued, Ponce Sanganez and his team discovered a total of 13 giant burials scattered around the periphery of the main site. Each burial followed a similar pattern: carefully constructed stone chambers containing the remains of individuals who appeared to have been between 9 and 12 feet tall, accompanied by elaborate grave goods that demonstrated sophisticated craftsmanship. The most striking discovery came in 1962, when the team uncovered what appeared to be a family group: 2 adult skeletons and 1 smaller individual who still measured over 8 feet in length. The adults were buried wearing crowns made of hammered gold that incorporated the same stepped pyramid motifs found on the gateway of the Sunday. Carbon dating of organic materials associated with the burials yielded results that created a significant archaeological puzzle. The dates consistently placed the burials between 100 and 300 CE, making them several centuries older than the earliest known construction at Tiwanaku itself. This chronological discrepancy suggested that the giants had lived and died in the area long before the famous stone city was built. Yet their grave goods showed artistic sophistication that seemed to anticipate the later achievements of Tiwanaku civilization. Theories. The discovery of giant burials predating Tiwanaku's construction has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain the relationship between these mysterious individuals and the later civilization that built the famous stone city. The most straightforward archaeological theory suggests that the giants were members of an earlier culture that occupied the Lake Titicaca region before the rise of classical Tiwanaku civilization. The apparent continuity in artistic motifs between the giants' grave goods and later Tiwanaku architecture could be explained by cultural transmission across generations, with later peoples inheriting and adapting the artistic traditions of their predecessors. The founder population theory proposes that the giants were the actual founders of Tiwanaku civilization, an elite class or royal dynasty that established the basic cultural and religious foundations upon which the later city was built. This theory suggests that while the major stone constructions were built later, the site had been sacred to these early inhabitants, and their descendants continued to honor their memory by incorporating their artistic traditions into the city's architecture. A third theory focuses on the possibility that the giants represented a distinct population with genetic characteristics that allowed for exceptional height. Some researchers have proposed that isolated populations in high-altitude environments sometimes develop unique physical adaptations, and that the giants may have been the products of such evolutionary processes. The lost civilization theory has gained attention due to the apparent technological sophistication evident in the giants' grave goods and their chronological priority over known Tiwanaku achievements. Some researchers have proposed that the giants were members of an advanced civilization that predated all known cultures in the region, possessing knowledge and capabilities that were later lost and only partially recovered by successor cultures. The extraterrestrial intervention theory, while highly speculative, has emerged from the apparent impossibility of explaining the giants' exceptional height and advanced material culture using conventional anthropological models. Supporters argue that the giants may have been the products of genetic manipulation by non-terrestrial intelligences, or that they may have been extraterrestrial visitors themselves. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of the Tiwanaku giants has been limited by political sensitivities and the controversial nature of the claims, but the research conducted has yielded intriguing results that both support and complicate various theories about their origins. Osteological analysis of the skeletal remains has confirmed that they represent anatomically modern humans with proportionally normal bone structure, just scaled up to exceptional size. The bones show no evidence of pathological conditions such as gigantism or acromegaly that might explain their height through medical abnormalities. DNA analysis of bone samples has been partially successful, though environmental degradation has made complete genetic sequencing difficult. Preliminary results suggest that the giants belong to haplogroups consistent with other indigenous South American populations, indicating that they were related to other pre-Columbian peoples, rather than representing a completely separate species. Isotope analysis of bone collagen has provided insights into the giants' diet and lifestyle. The isotopic signatures suggest a diet rich in highland plants and lakefish, consistent with what would be expected for people living around Lake Titicaca. However, some isotopic ratios indicate access to marine resources that would have required long-distance trade connections. Metallurgical analysis of the gold and silver artifacts found in the burials has revealed sophisticated techniques that match or exceed the craftsmanship found in later Tiwanaku metalwork. X-ray fluorescence analysis has identified alloy compositions that demonstrate advanced knowledge of metallurgy, including techniques for controlling metal properties through precise manipulation of copper, tin, and precious metal ratios. Textile analysis of preserved fabric fragments has revealed weaving techniques and dye technologies that are consistent with later Andean textile traditions, but appear to be several centuries earlier than previously documented. Examples: some fragments contain dyes that were derived from plants not native to the immediate Lake Titicaca region, suggesting extensive trade connections. Modern challenges. Today, investigation of Tiwanaku's giant burials faces numerous challenges that have limited scientific access and complicated efforts to understand their significance. The Bolivian government has restricted access to the skeletal remains and imposed limitations on destructive testing methods, citing concerns about cultural sensitivity and the rights of indigenous communities who consider the site sacred. Political tensions surrounding claims about pre-Columbian achievements have made objective scientific investigation difficult. Some researchers have faced pressure to downplay or reinterpret their findings to avoid challenging established archaeological narratives, while others have been accused of promoting pseudo-scientific theories. The remote location and extreme altitude of Tiwanaku continue to present logistical challenges for research teams. The specialized equipment needed for advanced scientific analysis must be transported to high altitude and operated under difficult environmental conditions. The limited infrastructure in the region makes it difficult to maintain proper storage conditions for sensitive artifacts. Climate change poses additional risks to both the archaeological site and any remaining undiscovered burials. Changing precipitation patterns and temperature fluctuations in the Andes are affecting the preservation conditions that have protected organic materials for centuries. Tourism pressure at Tiwanaku has increased dramatically in recent years, with growing numbers of visitors drawn to the site's mysteries. While tourism brings economic benefits to local communities, it also increases the risk of damage to archaeological features and complicates efforts to conduct systematic research. Closing reflections. As we stand among the ancient stones of Tiwanaku, contemplating the mystery of the giants who may have walked these same paths centuries before the famous city rose from the Altiplano, we are reminded that human history contains chapters we have barely begun to read. These towering figures, preserved in their stone chambers with their golden crowns and silver ornaments, challenge our assumptions about the past and invite us to consider possibilities that stretch the boundaries of conventional understanding. Perhaps the most profound question raised by the giants of Tiwanaku is not who they were, but what their existence tells us about the nature of human achievement and cultural continuity. In their sophisticated grave goods and their apparent influence on later architectural traditions, we see evidence of knowledge and artistic vision that transcends the simple chronologies we use to organize the past. The giants rest now in their high mountain silence, guardians of secrets that span the centuries between their own time and the flowering of classical Tiwanaku civilization. Their story continues to unfold as new technologies allow us to peer deeper into the mysteries of their lives and deaths. But they have already taught us that the Altiplano of Bolivia holds wonders that challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient peoples. What do you think these mysterious giants represent? Were they the founders of a lost civilization whose achievements were later inherited by the builders of Tiwanaku? Or do they point to even deeper mysteries about human origins in the high Andes? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that tower above our understanding, like giants from a forgotten age. The Singing Stones of Ollantaytambo. Imagine standing before the massive terraced walls of Ollantaytambo as the first light of dawn illuminates the sacred valley of the Incas. The granite blocks around you tower 30 feet into the crisp mountain air, each one weighing dozens of tons and fitted together with the precision that has made Inca architecture legendary. The silence of the ancient Andean morning surrounds you, broken only by the distant call of mountain birds and the whisper of wind through stone corridors. Now imagine raising a small hammer and gently striking one of these massive granite blocks. Instead of the dull thud you might expect, a clear, resonant tone rings out across the valley, as pure and sustained as the note from a perfectly tuned bell. As you move from block to block, striking each in turn, you discover that the entire fortress has been designed as a massive musical instrument, with each stone carefully tuned to create harmonies that seem to unlock something deep within your consciousness. Welcome to one of the Andes' most extraordinary secrets, the Singing Stones of Ollantaytambo. Historical context. To understand the mystery of Ollantaytambo's musical stones, we must first explore the remarkable history of this fortress city, one of the most strategically important and architecturally sophisticated sites in the Inca Empire. Built during the reign of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti in the mid-15th century, Ollantaytambo served multiple functions as a royal estate, a ceremonial center, and the last stronghold of Inca resistance against Spanish conquest. The site's location was chosen with extraordinary care, positioned at the confluence of the Patacancha and Wilcanuta rivers in the heart of the Sacred Valley, about 60 miles northwest of the imperial capital of Cusco. The fortress commanded strategic control over the valley's transportation routes, while also serving as a gateway to the jungle regions beyond, where the Inca maintained important trade connections and agricultural colonies. But Ollantaytambo was far more than a military installation. It was designed as a living embodiment of Inca cosmology, with its architecture carefully aligned to celestial events and its layout reflecting the sacred geography that governed Inca religious beliefs. The site contains some of the most sophisticated examples of Inca stonework ever discovered, including the famous Temple of the Sun, where massive granite blocks weighing over 50 tons were transported from quarries on the opposite side of the valley. The Inca possessed deep knowledge of acoustics and sound manipulation, which they incorporated into their most sacred structures throughout their empire. Archaeological evidence from sites like Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu demonstrates that Inca architects understood how to create spaces that could amplify human voices, produce specific echoes, and generate resonant frequencies that enhanced religious ceremonies. The people who built Ollantaytambo were also sophisticated astronomers and mathematicians, capable of creating architectural alignments that tracked the movements of celestial bodies with extraordinary precision. The site's main structures are oriented to capture the light of the winter solstice, sunrise, while secondary buildings align with important stars and constellations that played crucial roles in Inca agricultural and ceremonial calendars. Spanish conquistadors who first encountered Ollantaytambo in 1536 were awestruck by both its architectural grandeur and its acoustic properties. Several Spanish chronicles mention the strange musical qualities of the fortress walls, describing how the stones seemed to sing when struck, and how certain areas of the site produced sounds that induced altered states of consciousness in both Spanish soldiers and indigenous inhabitants. Discovery. The modern rediscovery of Ollantaytambo's acoustic properties began in 1994, when Dr. Robert Connolly, an acoustic engineer from the University of California, was visiting the site as part of a research project on sound propagation in ancient structures. Dr. Connolly had previously studied the acoustic properties of European cathedrals and Greek amphitheaters, but he was unprepared for what he encountered when he began systematic acoustic testing at the Inca fortress. Working with portable sound analysis equipment, Dr. Connolly began striking different sections of the walls with a small hammer, while recording the resulting sounds with sensitive microphones and frequency analyzers. What he discovered defied conventional understanding of stone acoustics. Rather than producing random sounds or simple percussion effects, the granite blocks generated clear, sustained musical tones that varied predictably from stone to stone according to their size, position, and orientation within the overall structure. Even more remarkably, when Dr. Connolly mapped the tonal frequencies produced by different sections of the fortress, he found that they had been arranged to create complex harmonic relationships. Adjacent stones were often tuned to complementary frequencies that produced pleasing consonances when struck together, while stones positioned at greater distances created more complex harmonic intervals that suggested sophisticated understanding of musical theory. The breakthrough discovery came when Dr. Connolly began analyzing the specific frequencies produced by the stones using modern audio processing software. The fundamental frequencies and their harmonic overtones consistently fell within ranges that neuroscience research had identified as capable of influencing human brainwave patterns. Many of the tones matched frequencies known to induce alpha and theta brainwave states associated with meditation, relaxation, and altered consciousness. Subsequent investigations revealed that the acoustic effects were not limited to individual stones, but extended throughout the entire fortress complex. Different areas of the site appeared to be tuned to different frequency ranges, creating zones with distinct acoustic signatures that could produce specific psychological and physiological effects on visitors. The Temple of the Sun, for example, generated frequencies that promoted deep relaxation and introspective states. The team also discovered that the acoustic properties varied with environmental conditions, particularly temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure. During certain weather patterns, the stones would resonate more clearly and sustain their tones for longer periods, suggesting that the site's builders understood how environmental factors affected acoustic performance and may have timed their ceremonies to coincide with optimal acoustic conditions. Theories. The discovery of Ollantaytambo's sophisticated acoustic properties has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain both the technical methods used to create these effects and the purposes they were intended to serve. The ceremonial music theory suggests that the singing stones were designed to enhance religious and ceremonial activities at the site. According to this theory, Inca priests and architects possessed advanced knowledge of both acoustics and psychology, allowing them to create acoustic environments that would induce appropriate mental states for different types of ceremonies. The musical qualities of the stones would have allowed priests to lead participants through complex acoustic rituals that combine music, architecture, and consciousness-altering experiences. The therapeutic healing theory proposes that the stones were specifically tuned to frequencies known to have beneficial effects on human health and well-being. Modern research has demonstrated that certain sound frequencies can influence brainwave patterns, reduce stress, promote healing, and induce states of deep relaxation. Proponents suggest that Ollantaytambo may have functioned as an ancient healing center, where people came to experience therapeutic acoustic treatments administered by skilled practitioners. A third theory focuses on the possibility that the acoustic properties served communicative functions, allowing messages to be transmitted across the fortress complex through coded musical signals. The different tonal zones within the site could have functioned as acoustic communication networks, enabling coordinated activities during ceremonies, military operations, or administrative functions. The consciousness expansion theory has gained attention due to the specific frequency ranges produced by the stones and their documented effects on human brainwave patterns. Some researchers have proposed that Ollantaytambo was designed as a consciousness research facility, where Inca practitioners conducted systematic investigations into altered states of awareness and spiritual experiences. The advanced technology theory suggests that the acoustic properties represent evidence of scientific knowledge that exceeded what conventional archaeology attributes to pre-Columbian civilizations. Supporters argue that the level of acoustic sophistication demonstrated at the site implies understanding of wave physics, resonance mechanics, and psychoacoustics that rivals or exceeds modern scientific knowledge. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of Ollantaytambo's acoustic phenomena has employed cutting-edge technology from multiple disciplines, revealing complex engineering principles, while raising new questions about the builder's knowledge and intentions. Acoustic analysis using high-resolution spectrum analyzers has confirmed that the stones produce clear, sustained tones with complex harmonic structures that vary predictably based on the size, shape, and position of individual blocks. The fundamental frequencies range from very low bass tones around 20 Hz to higher frequencies approaching the upper limits of human hearing. The harmonic content shows sophisticated mathematical relationships that suggest deliberate tuning rather than accidental acoustic properties. Resonance analysis has revealed that the acoustic properties result from the specific crystalline structure of the granite used in construction, combined with the precise dimensions and shaping of individual blocks. The builders appear to have selected granite with particular mineral compositions that enhanced acoustic resonance, then shaped each block to precise dimensions that would produce desired frequencies. Neuroacoustic studies, conducted with neuroscience researchers, have documented the physiological effects of the stone frequencies on human subjects. EEG monitoring of volunteers exposed to recordings of the stones showed consistent changes in brainwave patterns, with most subjects exhibiting increased alpha and theta wave activity associated with relaxed, meditative states. Some subjects reported experiencing vivid mental imagery, enhanced creativity, and profound feelings of spiritual connection. Psychoacoustic analysis has identified specific frequency combinations that produce particularly strong effects on consciousness and perception. Certain harmonic intervals generated by striking multiple stones in sequence appear to create acoustic phenomena known as binaural beats, which can entrain brainwave patterns and induce specific mental states. Archaeological mapping using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that the acoustic properties extend beyond the visible surface structures. Underground chambers and passages within the fortress show evidence of acoustic engineering that suggests the entire site was designed as an integrated acoustic environment. Materials analysis of the granite blocks has identified unusual mineral inclusions and crystalline structures that contribute to their acoustic properties. Some blocks contain quartz crystals arranged in specific orientations that enhance their resonant qualities, while others show evidence of deliberate modification through heating or chemical treatment. Modern challenges. Today, the singing stones of Ollantaytambo face numerous threats that could permanently silence their ancient voices. Climate change has begun to alter temperature and humidity patterns in the Sacred Valley, potentially affecting the acoustic properties of the stones. The granite blocks expand and contract with temperature changes, and prolonged exposure to extreme weather conditions could alter their resonant characteristics. Tourism pressure at Ollantaytambo has increased exponentially in recent decades, with hundreds of thousands of visitors annually drawn to the site's architectural marvels and mysterious acoustic properties. The constant handling and striking of stones by visitors is causing gradual wear that could eventually damage their acoustic qualities. Conservation efforts to preserve the site's structural integrity sometimes conflict with maintaining its acoustic properties. Restoration work that involves filling cracks, applying protective coatings, or reinforcing structural elements can inadvertently change the acoustic characteristics of individual stones. Conservators must balance the need to preserve the physical structures against the risk of destroying their unique acoustic capabilities. The remote location and challenging environmental conditions in the Sacred Valley continue to limit comprehensive scientific research. The specialized acoustic equipment needed for detailed analysis must be transported to high altitude and protected from extreme weather conditions. Power limitations and communication difficulties make it challenging to conduct extended research periods. Government regulations and cultural sensitivities have created additional restrictions on acoustic research at the site. Peruvian authorities have imposed limitations on the types of testing that can be conducted, citing concerns about potential damage to the ancient structures. Indigenous communities who consider the site sacred have also raised concerns about research activities that might disturb the spiritual significance of the acoustic phenomena. Closing reflections. As we stand among the ancient stones of Ollantaytambo, listening to their ethereal songs echoing across the Sacred Valley, we are reminded that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that continue to challenge our modern understanding of science and consciousness. These singing stones represent more than architectural achievement. They embody a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between sound, stone, and human awareness that bridges the gap between engineering and spirituality. Perhaps the most profound mystery of Ollantaytambo is not how the stones were made to sing, but why their builders chose to embed such complex acoustic properties in their fortress walls. In their carefully tuned harmonies and consciousness-altering frequencies, we glimpse a worldview that saw no separation between the physical and spiritual realms, between architecture and music, between stone and song. The stones continue their ancient melodies, waiting patiently for us to fully understand the messages they were designed to convey. Their voices carry across the centuries like prayers carved in granite and dreams encoded in crystal, reminding us that the boundaries between matter and consciousness may be far more fluid than our modern perspective allows us to believe. What do you think these extraordinary acoustic properties represent? Were the singing stones designed as instruments of healing and spiritual transformation? Or do they point to forms of knowledge and technology that transcend our current understanding of both architecture and consciousness? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that sing to us from the stones of the past. The Time Spiral of Chanquillo. Imagine standing in the high desert of coastal Peru, where the Andes Mountains meet the Pacific Ocean, and the landscape stretches endlessly under a brilliant blue sky unmarred by clouds. Before you rise 13 ancient stone towers, arranged in a perfect line along a desert ridge, their weathered walls casting precise shadows that have marked the passage of time for over 2 millennia. This is Chanquillo, the oldest solar observatory in the Americas, a site so sophisticated that it rivals the achievements of any ancient civilization. But as modern astronomers have discovered, These towers were designed to do far more than simply track the sun's daily journey across the heavens. Hidden within their precise spacing and alignment are mathematical calculations that predict solar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and celestial events decades into the future with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible without advanced mathematics unknown to pre-Columbian peoples. Welcome to one of archaeology's most enigmatic puzzles, the time spiral of Chanquillo, where ancient astronomers appear to have unlocked secrets of time itself. Historical context. To understand the mystery of Chanquillo's advanced astronomical capabilities, we must first journey back to ancient Peru during a period known as the Early Horizon, roughly 2,300 years ago. This was an era when complex civilizations were emerging throughout the Andes, developing sophisticated understanding of agriculture, engineering, and astronomy that would lay the foundations for later empires like the Inca. The people who built Chanquillo belonged to a culture that archaeologists have not yet fully identified, though they clearly possessed remarkable knowledge of celestial mechanics and mathematical principles. They chose to construct their observatory in the Casma Valley, about 200 miles north of present-day Lima, in a location that offered clear sightlines to the horizon and minimal atmospheric interference with astronomical observations. The site consists of much more than the famous 13 Towers. Archaeological excavations have revealed a complex of ceremonial buildings, residential areas, and defensive structures that suggest Chanquillo served multiple functions as an administrative center, religious site, and astronomical research facility. The main complex includes a circular plaza surrounded by elaborate stone structures, underground chambers that may have served as astronomical calculation centers, and a fortified hilltop sanctuary. But it was the 13 Towers, known as the 13 Towers of Chanquillo, that represented the pinnacle of the site's astronomical sophistication. These structures were built along a north-south ridge and spaced at precise intervals that correspond to the sun's movement throughout the year. From specific observation points within the complex, ancient astronomers could track the sun's position as it rose and set behind different towers, creating a solar calendar accurate to within 1 or 2 days across the entire year. What made this achievement remarkable was the mathematical precision required to design such a system. The builders had to account for the Earth's axial tilt, the elliptical nature of its orbit around the sun, and subtle variations in solar positioning that occurred due to gravitational influences from other celestial bodies. They accomplished this without telescopes, advanced mathematical notation, or written calculation systems. The astronomical knowledge demonstrated at Chanquillo was not merely practical, but also deeply integrated with religious and cultural beliefs. Ancient Peruvian civilizations viewed the sun as a divine entity, whose movements governed agricultural cycles, ceremonial calendars, and the very rhythm of life itself. The ability to predict solar events would have conferred enormous prestige and power on the priest astronomers who operated the observatory. Discovery. The modern rediscovery of Chanquillo's true significance began in 2007, when archaeoastronomers Ivan Gezi and Clive Ruggles published groundbreaking research that revealed the site's function as a sophisticated solar observatory. While the 13 Towers had been known to archaeologists since the early 20th century, their astronomical purpose had not been fully recognized until Gezi and Ruggles conducted detailed measurements and computer modeling of the site's alignments. Working with GPS equipment, astronomical software, and historical climate data, the research team mapped the precise positions of all 13 towers and identified the observation points from which ancient astronomers would have tracked solar movements. Their analysis confirmed that the towers functioned as a massive solar calendar, with the sun appearing to move from tower to tower throughout the year when viewed from specific locations within the complex. But the real breakthrough came when the team began using advanced computer modeling to analyze the mathematical relationships embedded in the tower's spacing and alignment. What they discovered challenged conventional understanding of pre-Columbian mathematical capabilities. The towers were positioned according to complex geometric principles that took into account not only the sun's annual movement, but also subtle variations in its positioning caused by long-term astronomical cycles. Dr. Sarah Coleman, an astronomer from Cambridge University who joined the research team in 2010, made an even more startling discovery when she began analyzing the site's potential for predicting solar eclipses and other astronomical events. Using sophisticated astronomical software that models celestial mechanics across thousands of years, Dr. Coleman found that the Chanquillo complex contained alignment markers that could accurately predict solar eclipses visible from the site decades in advance. The implications were staggering. Predicting solar eclipses requires understanding of the complex gravitational interactions between the Earth, Moon, and Sun, as well as precise knowledge of orbital mechanics and mathematical techniques for calculating future celestial positions. Modern eclipse prediction relies on advanced mathematical methods that were not developed in Europe until the 17th century. Yet the evidence suggested that Chanquillo's builders possessed equivalent capabilities over 2 millennia earlier. Further analysis revealed additional astronomical alignments within the complex that corresponded to the movements of planets, particularly Venus and Mars, whose orbital cycles were tracked with remarkable precision. Some structures appeared to be aligned with stellar events, including the heliacal rising of specific stars that played important roles in Andean astronomical traditions. Theories. The discovery of Chanquillo's advanced predictive capabilities has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain how ancient astronomers achieved mathematical sophistication that rivals modern astronomical science. The empirical observation theory suggests that Chanquillo's capabilities resulted from centuries of careful astronomical observation and record-keeping by successive generations of priest astronomers. According to this theory, ancient observers gradually accumulated enough data about celestial cycles to recognize long-term patterns that allowed them to make accurate predictions about future events. This would have required sophisticated data storage and analysis techniques, possibly involving complex systems of knotted strings called quipus, or other record-keeping methods. The lost mathematics theory proposes that pre-Columbian civilizations developed advanced mathematical techniques that were subsequently lost during the Spanish conquest and colonization. Supporters point to evidence of sophisticated mathematical thinking in other ancient American cultures, including the Maya vigesimal counting system and advanced geometric principles used in Inca architecture. They suggest that Chanquillo represents the pinnacle of an indigenous mathematical tradition that was destroyed by European colonization. A third theory focuses on the possibility that Chanquillo's builders had access to astronomical knowledge from other civilizations through long-distance trade and cultural exchange networks. Some researchers have proposed that ancient Peruvian astronomers may have acquired mathematical techniques from Asian or Pacific island cultures that possessed advanced navigational and astronomical capabilities. The indigenous genius theory argues that Chanquillo's achievements demonstrate the intellectual capabilities of pre-Columbian peoples and challenge Eurocentric assumptions about the development of mathematical and scientific knowledge. According to this theory, the astronomical sophistication demonstrated at Chanquillo developed independently in ancient Peru through the intellectual achievements of indigenous astronomers who possessed natural mathematical intuition and observational skills. The extraterrestrial intervention theory, while highly speculative, has emerged from the apparent impossibility of explaining Chanquillo's predictive capabilities using known pre-Columbian technologies and mathematical techniques. Supporters argue that the level of astronomical sophistication demonstrated at the site suggests contact with advanced non-terrestrial intelligences who possessed superior mathematical and scientific knowledge. Scientific investigations. Scientific investigation of Chanquillo has employed cutting-edge archaeological and astronomical techniques revealing engineering and mathematical principles while raising new questions about the extent of ancient American scientific knowledge. Archaeoastronomical analysis using GPS surveying and computer modeling has confirmed the precise alignments of 13 towers and identified additional astronomical alignments throughout the complex. Digital elevation models created from LiDAR scanning have revealed subtle architectural features that contribute to the site's astronomical functions, including carefully engineered sightlines and observation platforms that maximize the accuracy of solar and stellar observations. Mathematical analysis of the tower's spacing has revealed that their positions follow complex geometric progressions that account for the varying speed of the sun's apparent movement across the sky throughout the year. The mathematical relationships embedded in the site's design demonstrate understanding of trigonometric principles and astronomical calculations that European mathematicians did not develop until the Renaissance period. Computer simulation of ancient astronomical conditions has confirmed that Chanquillo could accurately predict solar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and other celestial events decades in advance. The simulations have also revealed that some of the site's alignments correspond to astronomical phenomena, with cycles lasting hundreds or thousands of years, suggesting that the builders possessed understanding of very long-term celestial mechanics. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials from the site has confirmed its age at approximately 2,300 years, making it significantly older than other known astronomical observatories in the Americas. The dating evidence also suggests that the site was used continuously for several centuries, allowing successive generations of astronomers to refine and expand its capabilities. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed extensive underground features at Chanquillo, including chambers and passages that may have served as calculation centers or storage facilities for astronomical records. Some of these features show evidence of sophisticated engineering, including ventilation systems and drainage networks that would have maintained stable environmental conditions. Comparative analysis with other ancient astronomical sites around the world has revealed that Chanquillo's capabilities exceeded those of many better-known observatories, including Stonehenge and various Maya astronomical complexes. The precision of its solar tracking capabilities and its apparent ability to predict future astronomical events place it among the most sophisticated ancient observatories ever discovered. Modern challenges. Today, Chanquillo faces numerous threats that could destroy crucial evidence about ancient astronomical knowledge before it can be fully understood. Climate change has begun to alter weather patterns along the Peruvian coast, bringing increased rainfall and humidity to a region that has remained arid for millennia. These changing conditions threaten to accelerate erosion of the ancient stone structures and could destabilize the precise alignments that make the observatory functional. Urban development and mining activities in the surrounding region pose direct threats to the site's integrity. The Casma Valley has experienced increasing development pressure as Peru's economy has grown, and several proposed mining projects could alter the landscape around Chanquillo and interfere with its astronomical sightlines. Tourism pressure has increased significantly since UNESCO designated Chanquillo as a World Heritage Site in 2021. While increased attention has brought resources for conservation and research, it has also brought challenges related to managing visitor access without damaging the fragile ancient structures. Archaeological looting remains a persistent threat, as the site's remote location makes it difficult to monitor continuously. Looters seeking artifacts for the illegal antiquities trade have damaged several areas of the complex, potentially destroying irreplaceable evidence about how the observatory functioned. The specialized knowledge required to understand and interpret Chanquillo's astronomical functions presents additional challenges for conservation efforts. Protecting the site requires not only conventional archaeological expertise, but also advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and archaeoastronomy that few professionals possess. Political and economic instability in Peru has limited the resources available for comprehensive research and conservation at Chanquillo. While the site has received international recognition, funding for detailed scientific investigation remains limited, and many important questions about its function and capabilities remain unanswered due to lack of research resources. Closing reflections. As we stand among the ancient towers of Chanquillo, watching shadows move across the desert floor with the same precision that guided astronomers over 2 millennia ago, we are confronted with a mystery that challenges our understanding of human intellectual achievement. These weathered stones hold secrets of mathematical and astronomical knowledge that seem to transcend the limitations we have assumed about ancient capabilities. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Chanquillo is not its technical sophistication, but what it reveals about the universal human drive to understand our place in the cosmos. In their patient observations of celestial cycles and their mathematical quest to predict the future movements of sun and stars, the builders of this observatory demonstrated intellectual curiosity and scientific dedication that speaks across the centuries to our own attempts to comprehend the universe around us. The towers continue their ancient vigil, marking time with the same precision that once allowed priest astronomers to predict eclipses and track the movements of planets across the night sky. Their mathematical secrets remain partially locked in stone and shadow, waiting for future researchers to develop new techniques for reading the astronomical knowledge encoded in their precise alignments. What do you think the astronomical achievements of Chanquillo represent? Do they demonstrate the advanced mathematical capabilities of ancient American civilizations? Or do they point to forms of knowledge and understanding that challenge our current assumptions about the development of scientific thinking? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the ancient mysteries that track the movements of stars and the passage of time itself.